Hello, everyone, and welcome to what is this little chat show of After the Fire. We're here to chat about the season we just did. I don't really know how this works because I don't usually do these. Susie, help! Hi.
No, just gonna sit here and watch. Hi.
Cool.
You obviously don't watch the internet's #1 chat show about After the Fire because we always start with a "Good evening, Westeros." So let me do that. Good evening, Westeros. Welcome to After the Fire, the internet's #1 chat show about all things after the fire. Oh no, that's what we do, and then it just devolves into us screaming and crying at each other.
Sweet. So. Stamper's already calling you out because you're in a pub.
Yeah, I'm in a pub. What of it? I did find a nice, little bougie, coffee jazz bar, and then I was like, nah, pub.
I literally saw your thought process as you did that on your face. You just went, nah. Little shake of the head, back to the pub. That was it. Done.
Yep.
It's like me on an actual night out.
Yep.
Yeah.
Club?
Trinity Wine Bar? Pub. Let's say hi to people. I guess on my right hand side, Millie. Hello.
Hi.
You ready to scream about this?
Oh yes.
I'm counting on you.
Very much so.
You're the one who's been screaming the most. So let's get it out there tonight.
I've been most recently traumatized, and you will note that the person who is the reason for a lot of that trauma isn't here tonight, which I think speaks volumes. But hello, everybody. I'm Millie. I play Lady Faye Rowan. This is my actual hair. Hi.
I do forget.
Me too.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah.
All right. And our new inductee. So it's going to be interesting to chat to you.
Oh, yes.
About all of this. Susie is our veteran of this, running all the After the Fires and playing since... not quite the first episode, actually.
Nope.
You were on #2.
I was #2 and then up to #5, and then I got kidnapped because I had to go and, see my future husband in Canada. So Sam thought, oh, let's just kidnap her then. She's gone, so fuck it. But yeah, I play lovely Lady Miria Ironwood because I took my house successfely.
Took a house. It's still
gonna say
got
it's
a
not
big question mark.
You're not going to say it's my house, Millie? You're not coming. That's it. No summer retreat.
Okay, it's your house.
Thank you.
Please let me come and play in the water gardens. I've had such a bad week.
The War Garden's like 400 miles away.
Yeah.
They're going to be Susie's too eventually. We've just skipped past the getting there process and admitted it.
I feel like the Lord Jourdain might have something to say about that because he's got designs. He's got designs.
He does. Yeah.
Just get close to him, Miria. It'll solve all the problems.
Yeah. I just gotta get attached to Jourdain and then he'll just die. Plan.
There you go.
Yeah,
there you go.
There you go.
Yeah. Strats. Pro strats. Hi, V.
Hi.
All right.
Yeah, I guess. I've been screaming with Millie a lot about the end of this season. So I can't wait for this. I feel kind of bad. I think we've been bullying Tom ever since Enzo ran off.
Is it bullying if it's true?
It's just retribution, right?
Yeah, there we go. That's
pointing out the obvious.
All right.
Fair. Yeah. I did the opposite of Susie. I went bougie wine bar.
The
classic Mara.
Characters really being demonstrated here tonight, folks. And hello, Dawn. How are you? My friend, my chum, playing Dark Sun with you on Saturday. I'm very excited.
Yeah. I'm good. I'm really good. And I'm excited. I haven't done it after the fire. I don't remember the last one. Maybe season 3, maybe season 4. I can't remember. It's been a while. I don't know if I've done one since I started playing Samwell Tarley, who had a great season. And I'm looking forward to a nice, casual, fun chat with everybody today.
You have, I guess, well, I don't know, actually, in a weird way, I think that a lot of characters, unfortunately, sorry, Millie, have come out on top of, like, kind of where they wanted to be, you know? Miria successfully stormed Castle Ironwood. Samuel and Mara did their thing. Got a couple of lords kind of in their pocket a little bit. Susie.
And a couple of lords
Sam-
in a bag.
Either
Yeah.
way.
Yeah.
Samuel's still not murdered anybody since I started playing him. He has not murdered anybody
Good correction.
with his own hands.
Technically.
Yeah, technically, I guess. I don't have an agenda. I don't know, like, where to start. And we've got to cover the whole season too. All right. What happened in episode 1? Because I don't fucking remember. The prologue was, I was singing. I sang a song, like, as part
That's
of
right.
it. It was what's his face, Grumpy Chops, singing on the boat coming into land at dawn.
It was Bit of Steel.
That's the one. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And the
When
army
you were
and
all
all
like,
that.
and his general, and we all knew it was Harris. We all knew.
That's fine. I still, I
was
still kept
hyped.
it to myself.
Yeah. No, I was like, when's the reveal? It's good.
Yeah. Millie, did you play in that episode?
Yep.
Number 1.
Yeah, that was rocking up at Highgarden.
We still had Marzia's trial to resolve, right?
Was that the first
Yeah,
episode?
I think that was like episode 3.
Two.
I think
or
we were
three.
prepping
Must have been
for
2.
it, and it would think it was
Yeah.
number
Yeah.
2 that we had the trial. Yeah.
Yeah.
And Crazy Times, season 1, episode 2, Trial of a Traitor.
It's almost like it's planned.
Not at all.
All pre-written. It's all fake. We're just reading off scripts.
Yeah.
It's
Episode
because
1.
Mara was in the trial, and her life is just a continuous repeat of terrible mistakes of the past. So
Yeah. Yeah.
That's true.
Is this her purgatory? Are we just doing this over and over and over? She's going to wake up Dallas style and it's all a dream.
Maybe.
Just in the
Wow, I
shower,
am
just
showing my age.
There is that.
Fucking
Yeah,
hell.
no. There is that. Like, there's that novel fan theory about the novels that it's just like Bran is actually it's all in his head, as he's the Raven. His third eye's been open and stuff. That it's just Bran's just playing like he's playing back the saga and is or revisiting it through the weirwood trees.
that would be cool
I doubt
if he
it,
was
but,
just
like,
a tree boy the whole time, much
Yeah.
like Max von Sydow was in the thing. I forgot his character name. Remembered the actor name. Forgot the character.
good job.
Blood Raven.
Even though I met him this season.
Yeah. It's Bloodraven, isn't it?
It is Blood Raven.
The guy
yeah.
who's in the tree. Yeah.
Yeah.
That was the coolest thing. And I'm such an idiot sometimes. I had a literal like revelation. Like I hadn't read that anywhere before, and I hadn't done that. And then I was reading The Sworn Sword when it was published in hardback, and I was reading through those. And then maybe I was doing research for this campaign, and I like way back in the day, and I was reading it, and I was reading about Bloodraven, and then I read some Wikipedia entry about the guy in the tree, and I was like, oh shit, it's that guy! Got there myself rather than reading about it on the internet, bizarrely. And even though it's like everyone's like, yeah, but yeah, that was fun.
Yeah.
Little personal revelation for me.
That was episode 1. Looking back on it now, with the characters who were in it, was me. It was Simon, Enzo, and Faye. So I think it was Enzo and Faye going to Highgarden. and
Yeah.
establishing themselves there. I was going down to Sunspear, looking at butts and having a good time for the probably only time this
Oh
season.
yeah, you arrived at Sunspear.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Flirted with a prince, as you do. And then Simon was going to Highgarden too, and I think getting lost in the maze. That was the birth of the maze
is that
folk.
what
It
Oh,
was the maze episode.
Right. Yeah.
yeah,
Is Simon still in the maze?
probably.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
We
he
don't
would have
know.
run out of sausages
It's
like that.
probably he's safer there.
He's safer
He
there.
He took being a hedge wizard very literally.
Yeah. Do you know what? If I want to learn about it, I've got to be it.
I'm one with the hedge.
Imagining like the poor couples that think that going into the maze at Highgarden is a place where they can go and hang out in private, and then Simon just through a hedgerow just does an opposite home. It's like, hello.
They did.
No,
we did
please
start
continue.
this.
It's purely scientific.
We did start this thing where he was being called the Haunt of Highgarden because he would just show up places. So it works. It all works.
It does work. So, Millie, how did you find stepping into Ladyface's shoes in the first episode?
To be honest, for the first half of the first episode is a blur because I was desperately trying to remember all the names and things. Like, my memory is shit at the best of time. And when you're trying to remember all the lore that has been built up over all these series between you lot, I'm figuring out what my character would know and actually who is my character. And I don't think you ever really know a character until you get them up on their feet. Like you have something on paper, but until those words start coming out of your mouth and they start reacting to what other people do, you can have an idea of how you'd pilot them. But she's taken me by surprise as much as anybody, I think.
Me especially. And I love it.
Yeah.
I absolutely love it. How was it? And I guess being an actress as well, you have a bit more experience of this. But how was it coming into a game and actually taking on the role of what was an NPC that I'd played and that I had built up a bit of lore, and I know like we had, I think even independently from the actual session 0 that we all did for this season, we had a kind of session kind of 0 almost, didn't we, where we were talking about what happened to her and how I'd kind of thought about her and stuff. How did that feel and how did you approach that? Because like I'd prepped a document for you with little timestamps of the videos to show you what she'd done, like how it actually played out. But yeah, how was it like different and how did you approach it?
It was incredibly intimidating, especially coming in this late in a show and knowing, especially because she'd had all these interactions with these different characters. I'm like, well, I've got to do that justice. I wanted to do justice to the character that you'd created, and I wanted people to be able to watch the scenes as I played her, and then if they skipped back and watched the other ones, once they get to know her a bit, that for those scenes to still make sense. I didn't want to deviate. I just wanted to kind of explain maybe like the way she is in Highgarden is very different to how she was during the tourney because they're in different locations, and Highgarden, I think by necessity she would be more guarded and less free. And I thought it was very telling the way that you played her, that the time she pounced on Enzo, they were like in a wood. It wasn't in the middle of everything, you know?
Yeah.
So that to me tells me something about her and where she feels most comfortable and where what drives her. That was really fascinating to dig into. And I watched those scenes that you sent me a lot because I'm like, okay, I have to make sense because I'm a psychologist at heart and I will always dig into the psychology of a character. And once I can think like them, I don't have to feel like I'm putting on a show. It just is natural. So I still maintain like Faye would have done exactly what she did when you played her in all those situations. And you saw a little bit, I like that you got to see a little bit of that rambunctiousness coming back when she was back at Golden Grove and she'd had a little taste of power and been put, had her mind put at ease, and suddenly she kind of pounced a little bit again because she was feeling confident. But then equally, you played her quite shy in certain scenes and quite sort of reserved, and I wanted that to make sense as well. So it was like this delicious little puzzle that I had to figure out what makes her happy and what makes her sad, and what makes her feel comfortable or more guarded. And I love that she had all these complicated relationships with people. And I certainly didn't want to, I knew when you mentioned the character that I'd been brought on to be, kind of love interest for Tom's character, but I certainly didn't want to be like, and now we're a couple, because we've got one of those in the story. And that's not where the fun is. To have two of those, that's just like, if we want to play for stats, then yeah, sure. But I think it's fun to see a couple that is more established and then contrast that with something that's still finding its feet and figuring out that, and we end up with what happened at the end of the series, which is 10 times more interesting than if we'd just been like holding hands skipping through the woods the entire season.
God, yeah.
Plus, I enjoy making Tom suffer. So,
well, I think my main concern might be the wrong word. Concern would be more of a loaded thing. But the thing I wanted to make sure of the most was that you were comfortable and that you were prepped and like happy to take on the role, because I had absolutely no reservations about you taking on the NPC, because taking her into to be a player character, because I know that you would just complete her. You put flesh onto the bone, whereas like I think I have basically like 4 voices. I have like generic noble, generic Dornish noble, female noble, and Horatio. I have some voices.
I've got more than that?
It. No.
I've made my entire career on one voice.
No, I get that.
Sometimes they let me do another one.
But
you made her such a rounded character.
Thank you. I'm glad that it came across, because I mean, the way that I guess I do that is that I never go, okay, this is the one with the slight lisp, this is the one with the strange accent, this is the one that always like overpronounces things or like has a funny skit to them. The way that I center into characters is actually how the rule book kind of does that for you in terms of characters. What's their goal? What's their motivation? What's their virtue and what's their vice? And that's literally out of the rule book. And it's actually done something for me, for RPGs as a whole, where that's what I key into. And so Leo is just all about personal glory. How can I look better out of this situation? And so instead of just being, haughty and I'm Lord Leo and I'm a great knight, look at me, and that's the thing. It's just like I'm always trying to play the situation first and the motivation kind of underneath that. Yeah. And I guess that's just kind of with Faye, what was interesting, and actually then to bring it back to your introduction into this season, was that we saw very little of her after the time skip. And so the stuff that I was playing where she was more shy and stuff like that, I think that was more that because I wanted to show, and I wanted the player characters to be able to kind of interact with and explore that feeling of she is a young lady in Westeros who now is in charge of a house. And, I don't care what gender you are, when you're placed in a similar position, you brick it.
Yeah.
And so I wanted to show that because of how the war had gone and because of how the winners and losers had gone. But what's happened obviously is that now she's a player character, we've been able to talk and more about what her goals are, what her motivations are, how she feels about the position she's put in, and that's only grown the plot, even in the stuff we haven't even got to yet, and what I've got written and prepped. That's just opened that up completely. And the reason why I said I had absolutely no reservations about you taking on the role that I obviously had played as an NPC was that the big trick is that sorry, I'm in a bit of a soapbox, but the trick is that with creative things like this, no, there are no wrong answers. So I think yes, we wouldn't have been screaming at each other so much, but at the end of the season, spoilers by the way, I mean, why are you even watching this if you haven't seen the season? But if you'd gone with Enzo, that's still a fun and juicy plot because now you're on the run. If you haven't gone with Enzo, now we have some screamy at each other juice and kind of how is going to happen to that relationship and how is she going to survive at Horn Hill. They're both great choices. They're just a choice. And so the choices that you've made with Faye have made her. And that's not made her better or made her worse. It's just made her. And it's put flesh on the bone, really.
But that's the weird thing, I think. Once you've established a character like that and figured out what their psychology is, and then it's almost like you're not making the choices. It's almost like an extension of the dice.
Yeah.
Like at no point was I thinking, yes, she will stay here. Like Tom and I had discussed, what particular, like with a different situation, like what would they have an argument about? And it was this kind of situation where she was being stupid and self-sacrificing, and he was like, no, you save yourself. That's what they'd argue about. We had no idea it was going to come to that. But it was never a conscious choice from me. There was no other way I could have played that scene for her, given the information she had and what had occurred.
Yeah. And when you're in it like that,
just
and when
her.
and when you're centered into those motivations, you're right. Like the choices are made for you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like kind of like being on a runaway horse, and you're just like, oh, the scenery's interesting. I'm as intrigued to see what she gets up to as anybody else, because I can sort of steer her in a direction that I think is interesting if there are two choices that are equal. But other than that, like, this is her, and it sounds weirdly psychotic to put it that way, but that's what characters have always felt like for me. If you get in their head enough, you stop being you for those moments that you're playing them.
Yeah.
Like you're watching from the back of your own head.
Yeah.
Just to make sure that nothing awful. Yeah.
Yeah, I've had that in LARP so much as well. Like I'm literally feeling stressed because I'm being put under pressure by some NPCs. I fucking shock horror, play a little spy in the beggar LARP I go to. So it's all like, I'm being manipulated this way. My boss is telling me this thing. I'm trying to juggle all of these balls. But in the back of my head, I'm going, this is great. This is so fucking stupid and fun. And I can't wait to see where I fuck this up. Yeah. But I'm still actually feeling stressed and actually feeling like the character is bricking it,
Yeah. And I get that in the voice booth all the time. Like if you're doing a death scene and you're not feeling for a moment like you're actually dying, it's probably going to sound like a performance rather than a person really doing the thing. And it was very telling that Tom and I came out of that season finale and we're just like, right, we are going to have a 20-minute row in Phasmophobia because we need to get this out. We cannot have this spilling out onto our friendship. That's not a thing.
Yeah. Oh my
God. It's like the nicest bleed.
Yeah.
Yeah. But thank you so much for trusting me with her. Because
completely,
I know that's a big deal especially when an NPC has been that established.
Completely, but she's yours now. That's the joy. Do you all know who she would have played? Millie would have played otherwise. Have I told you?
I have a suspicion.
Yeah.
Desmara.
Yeah.
Oh. No.
Yeah. Like I know, when we spoke, Millie, that I think in that one-on-one session 0, I think I was saying to you, wasn't I, that like there are a couple of options.
Yeah. I think we'd kind of decided on Desmara for quite a while because I bought a wig, and then you were like, no, this is more interesting.
Desmara was my first thought, and so I think we were talking about that. And I'm sure, if we had the time, we'd just dig up the Discord receipts, but I can't be fucked. But then, and my thing there, I remember, was that, like, it's, okay, so Desmara is this really fun, juicy, like, fan favourite, Susie favourite.
I could have been not shagging Susie instead of not shagging Tom.
Yeah.
Hey, no, I'm telling you, if you'd have come in and Desmara, Aaron,
there There'd have been no fucking choice. Like,
Ironwood what? We've just been bonking for the entire season.
yeah. But then I think I was like, but she's kind of going to come in like halfway through the season. And then I think we the stumbled upon, I was thinking, actually, okay, well, Faye. And so, I mean, I think the only concern there I had was I wanted to check in with, you, and then I spoke to Tom, of course. So we actually clued Tom in. And I was like, there is a romance subplot with these two. So I wanted to make sure the two of you were comfortable with it as well.
Yeah.
So.
It's been so painless. Like I think when you've been mates with somebody for a while, it can go one of two ways. Playing a plot line like that, it can either be horribly, horribly awkward if both of you haven't got like the boundaries of it sorted and are in it just to see what happens. I like that neither of us have been pushing for anything to happen in one way or another. Like we both desperately want it. Both desperately want them to get it together, but we're more interested in the journey.
Yeah.
Like, oh, by the way, spoilers. If all that shit you'd pulled at the wedding hadn't happened, we were totally going to absolutely ruin your wedding cake.
I knew there was some kind of
genuinely a plan. Like, lock ourselves away in some back room and just fuck on your food.
I feel like
I'm really sorry that you missed out on that opportunity.
I feel like you think that Mara and Samuel would be upset by this, but I feel like they just congratulate you. I think they'd just be like, walk into the,
so yeah, don't move. I'll just get this slice.
It's still good. Yeah.
Just like slowly close the door behind them.
Yeah.
Can I just get that vol au vent? It's by your
You don't want that.
Oh.
Oh God.
Yeah, it can be awkward, right? If you're not both on board, and role playing that, for all the bitching and screaming at each other, it's been a fucking joy to role play that with Tom. Like I've never had a romance storyline before in tabletop, and I don't think Tom has either. So we've basically lost our virginities together, which is just so very special. Yeah, it's just been a joy, and I love that they're bringing backstory out of each other that I don't think you would have got otherwise.
Yeah. Nice.
I'm
here for it. Yeah. I'm trying to remember where we met Samuel and Mara in terms of their plot and in terms of kind of where they were as people.
The trial, I think.
It was like just in Highgarden, right?
Yeah.
We had a camp. We followed everyone else to Highgarden, but we were camping on the outside and like inviting people to come join our camp. We were maybe poaching a little bit here and there to feed our hungry young
definitely
soldiers.
not laying siege to Highgarden, just like almost.
Right. Well, and this is the thing too. At the end of last season, there was this almost murder thing that happened, and there was a trial that was but we had to work really hard to make that trial happen at all, to get Leo to agree to do the trial at all. So there's a good amount of reason, because it was really a political issue where all of the people who were sort of pro Targaryen were kind of hesitant to try Lady Marcia, and then all the people who wanted to go down and raid Dorne, we were trying to give them a reason to pull them back and not go into Dorne, not burn down some villages.
Right. Yeah.
And so this was Samuel's and Mara's kind of way to bring those troops back and to give them something productive to do, to make sure this trial happens. And we wanted to make sure it happened.
It was kind of secondary. The trial was secondary to what they were trying to do, which is part of the reason when Marcia gets off, Mara is kind of happy to just leave it, even though she thinks it's bullshit, because clearly something was going on there. That it didn't really matter in the grand scheme of things, because it meant that we weren't in Dorne, raiding Dorne, doing shit that I don't think either Samuel or Mara were down for, of just like, we don't need to be raiding the Dornish are not our enemy. Stop it.
There's like a philosophical difference, I think, with the two of them. It's been really fun to play with some of the older lords from the previous Blackfyre rebellions and some of the more traditions of the Reach, especially in regards to kind of their attitude towards Dorne. I think that was important. Like for me as a player, I feel kind of icky a little bit. So I didn't want to play a character that was anti-Dornish. And with Samwell's an NPC too initially, but not maybe like we didn't see much of like what his true motivations were as an NPC. He was kind of like,
you know, Mara saw a lot of what his motivations were like.
Well, politically, socially, we got a little bit more. We got to see a little bit more of Samwell that way, I guess, as an NPC.
Oh, I had a revelation with Millie about Samwell and his motivations. And the two of us basically imploded upon realizing this.
Is this public knowledge, or can we share what's
I think we
going
talked
on?
about it in Phasmo, but I'll say it here for the sake of it. Obviously, we know that Samwell, Mara, and Alistair all spent a night together. And Samwell used to be engaged to Lady Faye Rowan. And I think we found out over the course of this season, they've been engaged, like promised to marry since they were kids. The night that Samwell spent with Mara and Alistair, he was still engaged to Faye, because that was before Oliver's murder happened and their engagement got broken off.
Yeah, that's true. Yep. That's very true.
I never realized this until talking to Millie and the both
I think I knew that.
I think I knew that. Oh, that little fucker.
It's certainly like not something I've like really intended or really thought through, but it's just like a happy kind of timing accident, I guess. Like from
I'd never realized before until like Millie and I were talking about I think we were just generally discussing like our character's relationship to Samwell and then to each other, and how that's weird and messy, but in some ways nice and whatever. And I was like, wait a minute. The two of us just like we had a moment going,
light bulb thing.
So this means this. It's like, so Durin's like, yeah, that was a thing that none of us really like. I mean, never
like given the
but...
politics of the day, it's kind of expected. And you know, there are worse things you can do, like, you know, treason. But yeah, that's a little bit of, I sincerely doubt that will ever come out in game. But there is so much like messy history between these three characters, and I fucking love it. And I'm very glad for that reason that Faye has ended up with them for next season, because yeah, that's where a lot of juice lives. Apple juice, maybe.
Who knows?
Millie and I got to talk before you started playing Faye too, a little bit about like what was that like actual engagement like what was their history like as kids and then as adults. And again, it's more stuff that I don't know if it'll ever come out, you know, in the game, but I thought it was really kind of like valuable to me to actually go back and think about that, because I didn't really know what the intention with Faye was, you know, because they were both NPCs at that time. So to work through that was a lot of fun.
And I think it really helped going through all that first meeting that we had outside in your glamping. What was it? Glamping with intent. I really enjoyed that. Good, isn't it? That scene was so loaded with unspoken stuff because we'd had that conversation.
Yep.
I love shit like that.
Same. And I love that underpinning it. And you know, it's like kind of the curse of the later Game of Thrones seasons, and like a lot of TV or like Netflix shows I watch now, where I'm like, have people forgotten what subtext is? Like, I did 3 years of this at college. Like, where the fuck is the subtext? Like, audiences are clever; they get it, even if they don't think it. They get it. Like, why do you have to fucking speak it in people's like faces? Like, what's going on? Like, that was what was so joyous about that scene for me as well. So all that unspoken stuff, all of it.
Yeah, it was very nice to be able to do that. I'm really looking forward to building up that relation, well, building up. Don't think it's going to be going in an upward direction from here, but like figuring out where that goes depending on what happens, and building the new whatever it is with Mara. That has been really interesting to see blossom.
I'm so glad that Millie and I finally got a scene together.
Oh, that was so
like
much
a
fun.
proper scene. And I think we'd been talking about stuff beforehand, because obviously Don and I had been planning this in the background, and then we brought it to you.
Yeah.
And so we knew that Millie and Tom would be there. So I don't think we said anything to Tom, because Millie and I also had an idea that we talked about how it might be interesting if they got split up when that happened, because I gave Millie the heads up and said, hey, I kind of want to do this, because I didn't want to like spring it on her.
You were very
suddenly,
consenty, and I appreciated it.
Yeah. And
would you be up for potentially
maybe being a hostage? And we talked back and forth about like when Millie and I talk, it just spirals into like every possibility that there is ever, which is great. I love it. And so I had originally intended to bring Enzo with us on that little journey to the locked room. But it just so happened that he wasn't immediately in the vicinity, and Mara was in a bit of a rush. So it ended up happening. We kind of joked about it'd be really cool if Enzo didn't know where Faye was or what had happened, wasn't clued in on any deal that she might make. And I like that we got to role play that all out without dice rolls, without trying to convince each other. Yeah. Because we kind of done that prep work before of like, where would they maybe stand a little bit? Is this even a possibility?
Yeah.
Like in some ways I prefer those intrigues. So I love some of the ones that just don't have dice at all, where it's just like either because there's been some prep work or because you're just so into role playing in the moment that you like you've convinced me. It doesn't matter. I'm here for it.
Absolutely. Like, and sometimes that's where the mechanics rub up against even me and NPCs. Like I'm actually like, do you know what? I actually quite like your argument. I think it works. I think they'd just be all right with it. So, you know, there have been a little bit of hand wavy moments, or not fudging, but like kind of, I guess, that kind of yielding or, you know, admitting defeat kind of action thing, I guess, in the past.
It's one of the things I really love about how you GM, Sam, especially with this game, because I've played other games with you, but you are always there for like, you're never trying to stop players doing something that they think is really cool. And at times, I think you've probably done it for all of us throughout all of the seasons, but like being willing to hand wave something because the interesting bit is what comes afterwards. And I know like I appreciated it with like Mara and finally divorcing Alistair, like because I came to you and said it's way more interesting to see what happens if that happens. Can we hand wave it so that everyone can get back to doing something really juicy and like things keep moving? And I think there's a lot of GMs that like it's weirdly, I think in my mind, like a skill to know when and where to just go, sure, fine, this happens, or but also consequences, instead of like just dragging something out that doesn't feel like it needs it. Like knowing how to pace that is a skill. Absolutely.
It absolutely is. And more RPGs, I feel, are actually starting to kind of write about that kind of almost like dramatic choices that you need to make about pacing, about stakes, about what's actually interesting for the players. One of the things I want to do with our session 0 for next season is ask you what is your dramatic question for the season, because this is it, we're wrapping it up. What is the one question that you want your character to answer, or that you want answered for your character? That kind of, I think, will inform your through line for the season. So, you know, is it, can I find out if I am actually Ironwood? Or, you know, is it, can I unite the Reach? Or is it, you know, can Blackfyre win? You know, it might be something like that. But, you know, I think it should be something personal. And, you know, if there's something that is kind of incidental to that you know, want to do, let's just do it and, you know, get over it. Rather than you don't have to raise the stakes on something or make something difficult just for the sake of it, you know. I mean, yeah, Millie, you know, can you please get laid? I mean, like, that's an easy one if you just, you know.
No. That's not Fate's genuine question. that way, pregnancy lies. I know you.
Yeah.
I know a blood witch that can really help with that.
Weirdly enough, we may have had a little word. Just on the off chance that they get it together, could you please help? We're going to need some serious contraception because this has been building up for a while.
There's Westerosi contraception. There's like a tea that they brew. Yeah.
Yep.
Moon tea? Is it moon tea?
Moon tea.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
My dramatic question is, how's the demon baby doing? How's he handling all of this?
Ooh.
Fuck, I've forgotten about the demon baby.
I haven't. I still remember that weird
never
fucking
forget.
dream he told me about.
Yeah.
The
Yeah, funny
dragon
thing,
burning the
dreams.
huntsman alive.
I love how you guys sometimes are just so fucking spot on with things that I'm like thinking about or planning. But I really try just not to let on, even if it's true. Harris being the main one of this season. Like, of course it's fucking Harris. Like, it just makes the most sense, and it's the most like rewarding. There is a dramaturgical trick that I will recommend to everyone who like runs or plays games or uses stories in any sense. Reintroduction of something is it's just like weirdly just a little kind of almost childlike reward for listeners or for players or for whatever. So if you introduce something in like the first act and it comes back in the third act, people are like, oh yeah, and it's just that little, so that was that. Plus that, I want to see what happens about the teenage crush. Like I'm interested.
So do I. It's a disaster at the minute. It's a fucking disaster.
Yeah.
I swear you're the most enthusiastic shipper in this entire experience, Sam.
I mean, at the heart of it, I
Make
probably
those
am.
two kiss. Make those two kisses.
I am, yeah.
At the end of the day, we're just little Sam's little dollies.
Yeah.
Who's like,
We're all in your head, Sam.
No, I legit have to like, and it sounds so weird. I mean, jamming for a while and stuff, but like, I really over the last maybe couple of seasons, or at least the experience of running the whole campaign has been, I have had to really put to bed that thing of like, this will happen, then this will happen, then this will happen. I have to, and that literally not knowing how a session will go or like conclude, like genuinely fills me with a little bit of anxiety. And I think that's a completely normal feeling for people who run games. But you have to make peace, or I've had to make peace with the fact that it's like, no, I have to write the problem. The players are going to write the solution. All I can do is what I call good prep. So I'm like, okay, who are the characters? What is the situation? What are the given circumstances? Once I've prepped that, like I've been saying, like figuring out the motivations and the goals. Once I've got that, then I can role play because I know what's happening. I don't know what will happen, but I know the start, and because if you're that invested in a story, of course you want to write the ending, like you want to write the conclusion, but you have to give that away.
I think
It's
you've been
hard.
really good in that, like, because all of us, I think we're all very aware that there have been lots of plots and schemes that have probably just had to disappear because we keep doing really unexpected shit that we don't tell
Fewer than
you
you
about.
think. I think, because it's so weird. Because like I said, I think creatively speaking, all choices are good choices at the end of the day, and so it was like, yeah, you want to commit, the red wedding type thing. I was like, okay, that's going to buy you some sway, but it rather beautifully complicates what's happening rather than just deciding it. Like, the rebellion isn't over.
Oh no. I think Don and I both know that this has probably only made things worse, but our characters don't know this. Our characters are like, we've done a great thing. Look at us being clever. And like, whenever Don and I talk about it, we're like, how are we not dead yet? Like,
And I like so much so much of this the end of the season, the plans and like all the little steps, because we started working this pretty early on in the season, knowing
It's going to be a question of
we're
mine.
trying to get to this point. And it came out of that scene outside the camp in the second, or maybe the second episode, maybe the third episode, when Faye came to visit their host. And Faye and Samwell had an intrigue, and Faye won. And Faye convinced Samwell that what he's doing, the tactics he's using now, the people it hurts the most are the small folk. It's that he's not thinking of the consequences of his actions, and he's still not thinking of the consequences, but he took that to heart. And so his plans were really like, what can I do to minimize the loss of life, but still like get what I want? Because he's the kind of person who he's entitled, and he's ambitious, and he still wants what he wants, but his tactic came out of that intrigue early on. And then we started working on the plan and started like slowly working towards it.
So really, this is all Millie's
I
fault.
was gonna say.
I say so. I think so.
I mean, so much of what ended up happening, like we've all been writing fiction about this because we need to get it out of our heads. But the last Faye one that I wrote was basically her just full of guilt, feeling like all her decisions have been wrong, which is so much fun to play with, given that she spent the entire season with everybody like, oh, she's a really good politician. Like, no, she makes dreadful decisions, especially when it comes to Samwell. She's an idiot.
I feel like everyone makes
the final
bad
session
decisions.
too.
Yeah.
When it comes to Samwell.
Yeah.
She was rather good though. And like I kind of want to reveal now that really I think it was Faye that really sealed the deal when it came to dealing with House Oakheart for Mara, because she convinced Sir Gawain that it's like if she's not a good wife, she's not worth it, or pretty much like paraphrasing that.
That isn't wrong though. She was entirely
I guess.
Well, that's
like
part of Faye. Like, she won't lie. And I love taking something that could be seen as a weakness like that and just being like, okay, I'm a politician who won't lie. How the hell do I make that work? Like, be blunt, make it an art form.
And you have but I think in my head canon at least, like all right, elbow, relax. In my headcanon at least, Sir Gawain would like send a letter home and just be like, do you know what? Like, she's not worth it, basically. Like, abandon all hope.
It's probably the best thing that like House Oakheart could have done, because I'd always planned if it ever came down to Mara having to go back there and having to like and not being able to go the way she wanted, she would have made their lives hell, like absolute hell, which she kind of been doing for the last 5 years anyway. But that's all because of her fucked up feelings. She's pissed at Alistair, rightfully so, but she can't take that out on him. He's not around. And she doesn't really want him to be, but she can take it out on the people who are related to him, the people that for her still envision everything that he is. Because she's like, well, you're his parents. You fucking raised him. This is your problem. Like, what's wrong with you? But also, I felt really bad right up until I found out that they hadn't gone to visit him either. And I'm like, well, if his own parents don't want to see him.
Oh my god, his dad's fucking going through it. Like, if you didn't get that from season 4, jeez.
They're also, both of them are old, and it's a long fucking way to go to King's Landing. Unless they're summoned there by the king, they're not gonna go, because they are literally the Lord and Lady of Oakheart. They can't like fuck around all the time whenever they want and go have fucking wine whenever they want. Virginia.
It's not my fault Miria didn't get a spring break.
She didn't get any break.
Is this Miria's spring break?
I don't know. It's a bit of a shit one. Like, she's in
one
a
nice night.
Yeah.
If it makes you feel better.
And now she's got a house to look after. Like, fuck.
Oh, my free house is really difficult to look after. Fucking hell.
See, in the way that like Faye influenced Samwell into this whole wedding thing as it became, Miria, a complete non-intrigue, an argument that Mara and Miria had is what drove Mara to tell Samwell that she was in love with him in the first place.
Don't you
because
put that on me. Don't
they
you put
had
that on me.
argument in the 10. Susie and I never meant to have those arguments last season. They just happened. And there's a
Yeah.
point where she goes, just do something then, anything, just fucking do something with your life instead of like just choosing to not deal with anything. So she did, except it's not, I don't think what Miria maybe expected her to go and do with her life.
What I'm hearing from the two of you is a lot of passing the blame for the actions that you have willingly engaged in. Where do you think that comes from, Virginia?
Mara being a horribly selfish person who has never
There we
really had to
go.
think of anybody else but herself. And the fact that apparently trying to help anybody out almost gets her killed too. Like that was a turning point. Like Marcia trying to kill her, despite the fact that Mara had always tried to champion for Marcia and the house in the little ways that she could. That was her bit of like, well, I guess anybody that I really did care about, apart from this one person, no longer wants anything to do with me. So why do I care about what any of them think? And
Mara,
she just went off. She went off the deep end. Like,
and Mara had been, at Marcia's side when she gave birth to the twins. So yeah, there's a lot at stake there in terms of that relationship.
She talked her into the blood magic partly when Marcia was like, I really want to do this, but I'm scared. And Mara, having been brought up with the old gods, was like, only do it if you can really say you believe in what they're going to do for you.
Yeah.
And I think at one point she uses Lady Rowan as an example to add at court at Highgarden to advocate for Marcia keeping the house with Leo, so that men didn't try to be like, she can't do this, hand it over to someone else. Like, so it was and even at the tourney when she showed up for that, even though she did some stuff she wasn't supposed to, like going to the ball, she really did come to try and repair that relationship. And I think went off the deep end towards the end of that when it was really clear that wasn't working, and then she almost got murdered. So that was like a point for her where she was like, I'm just gonna do what makes me happy now, because nothing else seems to work. So if I'm gonna be miserable, I'm gonna at least try to be happy while being miserable and everybody hating me, which is kind of what's led her where she is now, stabbing her sister's fiance through the heart.
Susie, you got some feelings about that?
I have a lot of feelings about that because I understand where they were coming from. Ellery would not submit. He wouldn't join Blackfyre. I think it was really stupid to kill him because he was the Lord Peak. Quite a significant lord in the Reach. Even if he doesn't submit, you keep him fucking prisoner for a bit until you talk with your superiors about what to do with him, rather than killing a major lord of the Reach. But never mind. But I can only think of how Miria is going to receive this information is Mara ran a sword through your fiance's heart and kicked him off the top of the fucking castle.
Really nice sword, though.
How is Miria gonna receive that when this is the second time that Mara and one of her husbands has broken guest right and murdered someone that Miria loves? How is she gonna deal with it? I cannot think of any other way that Miria is gonna feel about that than pure fucking hatred. And if she sees either one of you, there will be an attempt on your lives. That's all I can think. That's Miria's main focus here is these fuckers will not let me have a single fucking thing in this world. They are taking everything from me. When does it end? And that's where Miria is currently in my head. She doesn't know yet in character. I know, and I'm processing those feelings for her already, and it's not good.
and Mara knows this as well, because Don and I had talked before, obviously, about who we would end up with on the parapets, and we kind of tried to figure out, who's going to do the killing if we have to kill somebody. And I feel kind of bad because Sam and Don never got to kill anybody, because we were sure that at least two of the people out of the three were going to just be like, I choose death, fuck you. So in the back of my head I was like, well, if Ellery doesn't submit, it would be way juicier if Mara was the one to do it, because that just sets us up for a whole load of juice and more Susie and I shouting at each other in a future season. But I think Mara knew.
Here's the thing though, you're not going to get shouty Miria, you're going to get dead silent Miria, which is way worse and way scarier.
Crossbow bolt Miria.
Right. It's going to be great. So it was juicy, and you know, the problem is that once you've got someone up there and you're like, well, you have a choice, submit or death, and they go, no, if you turn around and don't kill them, you've lost any kind of power and presence that you had in that moment, because everybody watching you, people who aren't supporting you, are just going to be like, well, I guess there's no real threat here then. And the people that are going to be like, you can't follow through with your own threats. So Mara 100% knew that was going to fuck up everything between her and Miria, which is not really what she wants. But in some ways, she also didn't want it to be Samwell that did it, because one husband of hers already took somebody that Miria cared about. She has no idea that that's Oliver's, Miria's father either. Like, I really hope that comes out and she finds that out so she can feel even worse about everything.
Oh, it's going to come up. It's going to come up.
So, like,
I
there's
feel
lots
like-
of weird, complicated bits to do with Ellery's death and who killed him and why. And Mara doesn't feel particularly great about that. Like, I think Millie's read the fic that I wrote that shows what happens afterwards with Mara, and it's just like the list of emotions she goes through is traumatizing.
See, what I love is that, and something I try to inject into the game is that kind of, you know, telephone game, like rumors not quite being right, not quite being accurate. So the story of what they did up there is going to be known to, you know, probably a dozen knights and nobles and a few guards probably of the house, but the camp below them, like all the camp followers and the entourages that have followed the, you know, lords and ladies and stuff here, they're just going to hear all sorts of stuff, and it's that's going to get out into Westeros rather than, you know, the exact story as it happened.
I think that's probably what's going to
historical,
get to
warfare,
Miria
too.
first, right? Oh, sorry, Don, I didn't mean to talk over you there.
I was just gonna say that, like, that's how so many wars happen, because of miscommunication and a lack of like being able to communicate the way that we can today.
Yeah.
And stories getting twisted and motivations getting twisted. I mean, that's history. That's just how it, like, that's real. It's really real.
Yeah. And I can't wait to see what the reaction is going to be from the Blackfyre side from this, because none of this was sanctioned, none of this was signed off on. And they've gone and they've taken hostages and they've killed lords without anyone giving them the okay to do so. And like V said, you know, Mara intends on writing a document being like, all of Ellery's goods and possessions now belong to Miria. Who's going to enforce that? Like, I'm sure Blackfyre is not going to be like, well, yeah, sure, just give her the castles. You know, he's probably got somebody who wants them. You know, the Reach are going to have people that be like, hang the fuck on. You're not giving these away, you know? Like, what's going to happen to the Reach? Because they're not going to be like, Leo's been captured. Guess the Reach is done. Someone else is going to take that seat. So it's like, and then they're going to have the reputation of being oath breakers. Are they ever going to be trusted again? You know, is anyone ever going to let them in their house again? Spoilers, they're not coming in mine.
I mean, probably wise.
Fair.
Just
Fair.
don't.
There's like a lot of and this isn't something like, you know, when you make plans or you make like a big political play, you don't always like, you're not going to monologue about like why there's like a lot of strategy that kind of went into this, as foolhardy and as much as it's going to fail. And it's kind of a power play. It's not just a power play for the Reach, but it's also kind of a power play against Blackfyre too.
Yeah.
You know, here is most of the Reach, and most of the Reach does support Blackfyre. There's actually not that many houses that are pro Targaryen in the Reach. And so if you're going to try to unifying them towards Blackfyre is a little bit easier maybe than unifying them in the other direction. But by doing this and saying like, and we made these decisions unilaterally, well, how is Blackfyre going to respond? Do they want the Reach as allies? Do they want the Reach in their way? That was purposeful.
Yeah.
Because for a while, Don, like we talked about which way are they going to go? Because we had initially discussed like what happens if they side with the Targaryens.
Totally.
And then I think the both of us were like, the Reach is it's so black already. And I mean, it's you, so we were never going to really go Targaryen in the end anyway. But we did have a real conversation about like, what if it turns out that support is actually the other way? and Sam throws us left field, and it turns out actually there's a lot of people that don't want to support Blackfyre. So like it was a possibility for about 5 minutes.
And we tried like a kind of a peaceful approach too. Like we had like a level where like you had the war council in the final session, and Faye like actually kind of turned and supported, like at least kind of supported, or at least gave a platform to Samwell to try to pitch this idea peacefully, which is what he wanted. And that was, you know, there was like an attempt. Like I don't think they wanted to. Obviously, they didn't want to kill Ellery, or they weren't looking to kill a bunch of people and ruin their good names or their not so good names. But they did anyways, because they did.
Yeah. I love that complexity of all those little decisions mounting together, and especially when two people are talking about their own private stuff, but it's never fully communicated. Like when Samwell came on with that, essentially, we want you to change sides to Lord Leo phase, like, oh, cool. I mean, not exactly what I meant, but fine. Oh, shit. I love those moments of realization, and that just adds depth to characters.
Yeah.
I love that Faye has spent so much of this season like trying to help people, and all of them go, yeah, okay, I'll do that. And it's like, great. No, not like that.
Not like
That's
that.
not what I meant.
No.
Yeah. But I mean, she's a diplomat in a way that I think a lot of the lords and ladies in Westeros aren't. Like she very much believes what she's saying based on where she's come from. It's like, no, we have to make sure people survive, and enough crap had happened with Leo, I think, by that point, that she's like, look, I'm not entirely opposed to it. Like, I'm here for the people, not for that dude up there that I've never even met. So she was on enough of a sort of a knife edge loyalty wise at that point to be like, I'm not going to scream at you in the middle of a war council, but I am going to raise an eyebrow really fucking high. But the way she sees it, like, she's been screaming this at people for years, that they need to start listening to people who aren't them. Otherwise, shit like this happens. And oh, look, surprise, surprise. So, you know, if Samwell was just echoing what she said all the time, it would be pointless him being there. The stabbing, she's less cool with.
I do like the fact that Faye is the only person who refused guess right, but she was always going to be the safest out of anybody else in that castle.
That was great. Yeah.
Like, because when Don and I were planning it, we were talking about like what's Samwell going to do? Is he going to, like, Faye is going to be important because she has Golden Grove and all of her banner lords, and she sits on High Garden's council. And there was talk of like, well, maybe Samwell would put her up there just to call her bluff. And I'm like, Mara's never going to let him do that. She's going to she's going to sit in that room while he's explaining this going, really? And when she turns around and says, fuck you, do it. What are you going to do then? Nothing.
And she absolutely
he would have let her go. He would not have followed through on, and that would have made him look awful.
Yeah. So like Mara's whole thinking was like, well, we have to keep Faye safe because he can't kill her. And there's no way in hell, after what Blackfyre did to her family, that she's just going to immediately be like, yeah, okay, I'll join. I don't see the harm in this at all. So
weirdly, in that last episode, it wasn't really to do with her family or old loyalties at all. It was just, you have put a decision to me, and I can't publicly put my people at risk by agreeing. She has to play both sides, or at least be put in a position where she can be seen that, like, whoever wins this, she can go, look, I was just in the middle.
I was a hostage doing absolutely nothing.
Basically.
I'm really interested to see how that plays out for Faye, because I think on one hand, like, it might look good to Blackfyre that you weren't fighting against, but if the Targaryens come out on top, it's like, well, you weren't fighting for us. Like, it's that question of like, when it's all said and done, if you have been sat in the middle the whole time, did you really support the winning side? Are you or are you not? Like, I feel like there's going to be a lot of complicated stuff that comes with what happens when somebody wins. If by the end of that, Faye is still playing both sides.
Well, I think she kind of, there is, especially some of the shit she's starting to dig up. Like, she's going to annoy someone, and that's terrifying. But she still completely believes what she's saying. She wants to minimize risk of life. And right now, her strength is not in her army. Her strength is in the value she brings to political negotiation. And she just so happens to be on the other side of that right now. And she will continue to offer that kind of help if she believes it will stop people suffering. It's not, to her, it's not her advising the enemy. It's trying to come to a resolution that stops bloodshed. So she'll do, especially now that like romantic stuff is the last thing on her mind. That's her place right now. It's going to be weird seeing her not having a job though. Seeing her dealing with that. Like, this is the first time since she was 17 years old she hasn't had a fuck ton of responsibility. She's like,
I mean, like hostage, like Spring Break hostage edition.
Not what I was led to believe. I thought there was more beheading. Huh.
I mean, season 6 hasn't started yet, Millie.
Yeah, true.
Oh God,
we'll get there.
I'm really excited because this season, Miria has kind of gone off and had like an Arya kind of season. You know, like very much like far away. Her own adventure, a big arc, and whatever not resolved, but like kind of bringing some of the characters together in the Reach to see what's going to happen when Miria reintroduces with the other characters and how that shakes things up, and with Miria's new position and everything. I think that's going to be really interesting. I think like anything we will never predict. It's going to be chaos. It's just going to be complete chaos. I'm very excited to see how that goes.
Yeah, me too, definitely. With because Miria is a Blackfyre supporter, right? She's pledged herself to Blackfyre. If they link up with the Reach, there's gonna be, war councils, there's gonna be discussions about what's next. We're all gonna be in the same room at times. Which is like, I'm low-key hoping that for everyone's sake that you do what you said you're going to do, V, and use Faye as a go-between, so that you're never alone in a room with Miria, which I think is very smart.
I mean, Mara, in my own little headcanon anyway, and I think we've seen bits of it in the seasons as things have been described as set dressing. Mara doesn't really go anywhere alone anymore, ever. She is either always with Samwell, or she has knights with her or Hunter with her. She doesn't go, like, she has a low-level paranoia about, like, after Marcia tried to kill her. Like, she just doesn't go anywhere alone. Even at the wedding, the reason that she has those knights is, I picture in her head, she walks around, very Cersei Lannister, when she's, like, going through the halls of the Red Keep, and she's always got those guards following her. That is what Mara does, because she has that low-level paranoia that something's going to happen. And I think in some ways she understands why that is. It's her own fault, but she's not quite dug deep enough to come to that realization yet.
Speaking of paranoia, Millie, did you take that quality in the end?
Yeah. Part of the reason why she didn't eat the bread going into the house. Also, a slight confession, which I think I made during Phasma as well. When I did the thing with the bread and gave it back to Samuel, I couldn't quite remember what that meant, but I knew it was juicy as fuck and I wanted to do it.
Sometimes you just feel it, right? Sometimes you just know.
Yeah.
I think it worked
to make
out.
A statement. But
it worked out well.
Yeah, Faye is like mechanically paranoid now.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Which I didn't know this going into the episode or anything, and afterwards I was talking to Millie and she was like, yeah, that's why she didn't. It was really funny that you turned around and said you can drink the wine, it's not poisoned, and that was just Mara making just kind of a dark joke to try and lighten the mood, and because she actually likes Faye, like she doesn't actually mean any harm to Faye. She would quite like to be friends with Faye, but Mara doesn't know how to make friends.
That was such a juicy dialogue choice. And I love that they're in this weird, fucked up situation now where Faye's basically hostage by somebody who really wants her to like her. And Faye just hates her guts right now. She's like, you are the reason my friend is making bad decisions. I hate you. Why do you like me? Go away.
I feel like there's probably like, I can imagine there's always like a low level of awkwardness, right? Because Mara is with Faye's ex-fiance. They've known each other. There was the other revelation that we had is that like the year that Mara and Samuel spent together, just as that started, Faye was going to send a letter back to Samuel to be like, oh, okay, maybe we can patch things up. And then she hears about the two of them fucking off around Westeros.
They were hanging out while Samuel was still writing letters to her, just like, can we sort this out? Can we please?
Obviously, nothing was happening between them at the time. That doesn't happen until the tournament. They just ignore all of that because that's sensible. And like, so Faye just hears all of these rumors about how they're having an affair, they're eloping off together and everything. And I just like, Amara has no idea.
Yeah. Like she was going to take him back. That was the thing that decided it for her. It was like, no.
It's just there's a weird relationship with the two of them where in some ways they're really awkward and hate each other.
Yeah.
If we boil it down, everything is Mara's fault. She's a corrupting influence. She's garbage and we got to get rid of her.
That's where Faye is right now. Yeah.
Do you know the really sad thing is, right, about the current thing? Miria was coming around to maybe letting Mara back into her life. As she knew they were going to be on the same side, she was willing to sort of like try and push through her own shit and try and be able to stomach being in a room with Mara again. And then she's going to hear about this. So she was like ready to be like, I will tolerate you. We are not friends. I do not love you, but I will not try and kill you when I see you. To, oh, great.
Never let people in, Miria. If you
never let people.
Do you know what happens? They just leave and they hurt you.
Do you know what happens when Miria lets people in? They die.
Oh, maybe you should let her in.
Maybe I should. No, because it only happens to men. It never happens to women. Just men.
I mean, we don't know that yet. Right? Oh, you say that, but
I mean,
what was her name? Daera died. So it might just take a little bit longer with women, because women aren't often charging in with swords.
Well, that's the thing. Well, if you think about it, Miria's first kill was her mother. So there you go.
Shit. Oh god, yeah.
Everyone who loves Miria or Miria loves dies. So that's why Harris just gotta stay over there, buddy.
Do you know one thing we haven't spoken about? Speaking of men in the lives of the women of Westeros here. I know Tom's not here, but Enzo.
Is that the question, Enzo?
Yeah.
So Enzo. Yeah.
Do you know what's actually funny? Enzo, with regards to Miria, Tom and I talked about this, and Enzo was extremely like, we're just mates. There was no sort of connection here. There's no, you don't see me as a father figure or an uncle or as anything like that, a brother. No, we're just mates. That was Miria and Enzo, just pals. That's it.
Only pals.
I'm very interested to know what Enzo's up to, because obviously Enzo is up to something and I have no idea what it is, but now that he's on his own, I think I'm hoping that we'll get to see him pursue whatever that is. I'm excited to find out what that is.
Yeah, for sure. I think sorry,
I was gonna say he's not on his own though. He's got that group that he hired back in season 4.
Like he's in charge of that group, and like up until now, Enzo's been a support character to whoever, and this is why I'm so glad it ended up going the way it did, because it's forced a support character out where he is in charge, albeit vulnerable and a bit shit, but he's got to make some decisions on his own now, and it'll be really interesting to see where he takes it.
I hope they're better decisions than the first decision he made on his own of leaving Faye. I'm sorry, Susie and I were like the two big shippers of that. It's fine. I've been trying to help Millie get her own back on Enzo by just being like, so here's a list of possibly single people in Westeros.
V is like shipping Faye with any NPC that moves at this stage. It's just like, hey,
so far single. My biggest, I was like, so Daeron. I don't know if he's single, but wives can disappear real quick in Westeros.
Well, the hilarious thing is at the wedding, like part of the purpose of that song, as far as like the initial concept of it, was something that Faye and Enzo came up with together. But she's like, I'm not musically inclined and you're artsy and smart with word. Like you singers obey him. I can't be asked. You do what you want. And that's why it turned into this like bawdy love song. But part of the purpose behind it is to make Faye seem very eligible and very noble and court attention from anybody whose attention could be caught. Wow, you can't hear the difference in spelling when you say it out loud, can you? So she's actually gone to a lot of trouble over the last half a season maybe to appear eligible and try and like lure people out and get juicy information by that. Now she's in a situation where that might actually be useful or awful. If some bigwig just like rocks up and like, I want that one. Oh, fuck.
I mean, it's plausible, right? Like that was a part of the surrender of Blackfyre, is that lords were just married off. Lords and ladies were like, right, that's your husband now, that's your wife now, fucking suck it up. I will say in Tom's defense, he did talk me through Enzo's like thought process at that scene. I can understand why he left. Like I'm not on the Enzo is a bad man train.
Oh no. I'm not either. Like knowing where he came from, we've had a lot of really interesting discussions about like how they think in different time spans. Like Faye is always, she ignores the present completely and she's always thinking like ages into the future. Whereas because Enzo has grown up the way he has to think in the present constantly. It's just survival. His decision makes complete sense for him.
Yeah. And it's like, Enzo's whole thing is his freedom, right? If he doesn't have his freedom, he has nothing. And Faye has grown up as a woman in court in Westeros. She's lived her whole life in a gilded cage because she has no freedom, not really. She doesn't really have choices to do whatever she wants. She has had her life on a path. So for her, she's going to be imprisoned again, but really, sure, her immediate freedom and liberty is restricted, but it's not that dissimilar from the rest of her life. Whereas for Enzo, if he's locked up in a house, that's it. That's game over for him. He can't be trapped like that.
I think for Faye, being hostage particularly was a huge deal. That was not like anybody else because that's how her entire family died. Like she has a lot of trauma caught up in that, and the fact that she was willing to do it was a big deal for her. But she knew enough about Samwell and Mara, or she hoped she did, to know that she wasn't in immediate danger of death because she'd be dead already.
Yeah.
So she's like, okay, well, that's a bargaining chip. Put that in the back pocket.
Yeah. I can see why Enzo was like, you can't fucking trust these people. Look what they've already done. Look what they've already done in the past and look what they're doing right now. You can't trust a word that comes out of their fucking mouths.
He's right. He's right.
He's probably right. Yeah.
Yeah. But Faye, like I said, she makes idiotic decisions when it comes to Samwell because those feelings don't just go away like that. They have been very fond of each other, and she's basically grown up thinking this is the guy for me.
Do you know what? Every single one of us, we're all too fucking sentimental. And that's our character's problems. Far too sentimental. Far too naive emotionally in a lot of ways too.
I think that's
that
really
is how
human,
most of the
though.
characters in the books die.
Yeah. It's a very human thing though, right? Is that it doesn't matter how bad somebody is. If there's somebody that you sit there and in the back of your mind, you're like, I know them. I've known them for years, or we've got this really good relationship. It's really hard to try and see past that familiarity that you have with them and that care that you have and make objective decisions. Because I don't think there's any way that Faye would have made that decision if it hadn't been Mara or Samuel that had got it.
Absolutely
like if she'd have been dragged into that room by some nameless guard and forced to make a choice,
fucking kill me. Yeah, do it.
Like
Don't care.
and I think that like this season I think has been the best for showing like deep down what drives a lot of our characters past just like the purely political stuff of just like, you know, Faye is driven a lot by that future, that looking after people, and it's always thinking ahead. You know, Mara is very much driven by impulse in what makes her happy and what she thinks is going to keep making her happy. She doesn't see past that really. You know, for Samuel, I think it's a lot of the power grab. I think maybe he's more power hungry than a lot of the court give him credit for.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, for Miria as well, it's legacy, right? Growing up, she was always compared to her mother, and then she has this whole revelation of, oh shit, my dad might not actually be my dad. This might be my dad. Well, he had this legacy. This was his house. Then, you know, I don't have it. She's fooled herself into thinking she didn't have anything going for her, so she might as well take on this legacy and do something with her life. And then she is like rushing towards death to take a house which might not even be hers, like rightfully. But she's chasing a legacy. I think that's Miria's like season 6 question is what now? She did it. She got the house. It's like that awful thing that she maybe expected to feel Oliver's ghost there with her, you know, being like, well done, you're home now. And she didn't, because that's not how things work. And now she has to build her own life, and she has to build who she is as a person. And it's from that sentimentality. She's got this image of this man in her mind that she grew up admiring, and then
it's an interesting
real life
offshoot of what we were talking about the stories that we get told growing up shaping us. And I think Miria's finally realized that like there is no happily ever after. There's no like the end. This would have been her happily ever after, and now she's got the thing, you know, she got the prince at the ball, or you know, her version of that. Like, it doesn't just stop, it carries on. And now she's got to figure out how to make it work, and that's going to be really cool to watch.
And that's also part of why I'm like, we're wrapping this up in this next season. Like that's it. Like I think I've said this before to you guys. Like I just think, you know, there's a lot of, obviously there's other ulterior motives, money and stuff, but like a lot of shows, a lot of franchises, they kind of just go on and on and on, and the kind of life gets sucked out of them because they don't know when to stop. And equally, if you have such a saga like A Song of Ice and Fire, when, you know, season 8 comes along and they try and like wrap it up Hollywood style, that doesn't work either. So one of the things that, you know, I'm in a weird way going to be quite excited about, but also going to do quite intentionally with us, is that I'm not going to try, and we're not going to wrap things up in a neat little bow and get that kind of like closure. That kind of, you know, what I feel, unfortunately, sorry, Don, is a very kind of American thing. Whereas, you know, what I want is kind of like, what I think is going to be most satisfactory is that we still have questions about the characters at the end of the season, so that you can still think, well, what would they have done next, or they still haven't solved that one issue or whatever. Whereas trying to wrap everything up in a neat little package and be like,
that's not life.
That's not life. And I think that's where a lot of you know, long running series fall down. I think it's kind of where season 8 in a way maybe felt, I mean, there's a lot of reasons why it felt crap, kind of, you know, pacing and all that kind of stuff, but like I think for a lot of people, you know, they basically, you know, aside from the Daenerys stuff, they basically tried to have that like council of like, well, how do we solve Westeros, and then it was like democracy, and then everyone like, what, that's so unfulfilling.
The resolution doesn't make sense with what you've seen. It just feels like they went, and we just want to make a nice, tidy ending, which is not how things work, because you never find out everything. You never, and I think it's what you came back to saying, what you said at the beginning, where it's just like, why do we have to tell the viewers everything? Subtext, like you should be able to leave that in a place with characters that you know well enough to go, oh, I can imagine that after this they go on to do that, or go on to do this, or this is how that thing might have been resolved, or hinting at it rather than just who's got a better story than Bran the Broken.
Ugh.
Everybody. The answer is everybody. Literally just anybody else.
The season 8 example, right? How the way like that council in particular wraps up, right? The North claims its independence. Are you telling me Dawn's okay with that? That the Iron Islands are just chill with that? You know, they're just sitting there going like, this is fine. Be more compelling if that cut off with, hang on, wait a second, and there was like some conflict there. You know, what's going to happen next? Do these other lands declare? But no, got to wrap it up in a little bow.
Yeah.
I think like there's some kinds of stories where it makes sense to have, you know, like a certain amount of resolution at the end of the story. But the Game of Thrones is a story about war, and it's a long history of a very big world that is constantly in a state of war and one conflict, and one dynasty feeds into the next, which feeds into the next. And these blood feuds take place over generations and generations. And that's the history of the world. So war never ends. Like violence always begets violence, and that's just a cyclical thing. So the idea that we could solve all of the problems in the Reach, or like, you know, fix the Blackfyre issue and decide who's going to be king, well, like the Targaryens, you know, they're only king because they came and invaded the continent. There were kings before, and kings that, you know, invaded before them. And down in Dorne, most of the current rulership of Dorne were invaders from off the continent who came and took over the continent. And, you know, in theory, like more people will come, more people will invade, houses will turn against each other. And that's totally what the story's about. So it can never be resolved.
It's almost like there is no good guy. Radical concept.
Yeah.
I mean, there are definitely some bad guys, but I don't think anybody gets to be morally absolved of anything that goes on in this, and that's what makes it fun.
I'm an angel.
I love
what you're talking about.
All of our characters at heart have been trash at least once, or have terrible traits.
I don't think Faye's been trash yet. I think she's there now.
I mean, to be fair, she's a member. She's a member of the ruling class. She literally is a landowner and nobility. She is trash from birth.
I think
because you profit off her labor.
Of the landowners, though. Like, if you're gonna be a non-landowner in any place, you want to be the place where they're like, "Hey, everybody eats together."
Is it everybody though? Is it?
Yeah. That was the whole concept behind Golden Grove. It's just like Oktoberfest. Once harvest's in, Oktoberfest. We celebrate together. I mean, there's a certain amount of privilege that comes with that.
A heck of a lot.
And I really hope somebody calls her on that at some point so she can just scream at them repeatedly.
That was basically the crux of Miriam Mara's argument. It's like, you are so fucking privileged and you have no fucking clue how much people suffer while you're having your fucking holidays.
Oh, you mean like you had a dream and then you decided to lead a bunch of people who had no proof that
I mean,
the thing
more
you
like
take, and a bunch of them died, didn't they? Did they? For what, a dream, a name? Huh.
I mean, more like stolen from your home at a young age, forced to be a prisoner, then kidnapped, tortured, dragged across the mountains,
in a big house,
almost died several times, you know.
All right, so Rugby asked a good question, which is the next season going to be 10 episodes? I'm not going to put like a hard limit on it. I'm going to aim for around 10, but take kind of as long as it takes, I guess. One of the things that is unfortunate about trying to run it a 10 episode season, no, not 10 seasons, as a 10 episode season, is that, you know, you guys have a lot that you want to accomplish, and we have to distill that right down into, you know, I have a kind of rule of thumb of like each scene is half an hour, so we have 6 scenes we can do in a session. So, not confirmed. No. So yeah, like I want to, the next season, what I want to do is I want to make it, even more led by you guys and what you want to do. I just need to work out what the balance of the kind of mechanics of that are going to be, because there is support, a little bit of support within the actual game rules and stuff itself. Excuse me, for like more of a top-down kind of managerial style of gameplay where you're moving stuff effectively like around the board of Westeros, and you're like, okay, well, I'm going to send my spies over here, and I'm going to send my army over here to do this, and then I'm going to go here and I'm going to do this thing, and then we could kind of play out the scenes. But I need to find out from you guys in our session 0 to what degree you want that, and actually, because the real juice is in the interaction, is in the playing of scenes, it's in the role playing. It's not in the board game elements. But if you have an army, like a couple of the characters do, if you have assets like spies, if you have courtiers, if you have knights, if you have Enzo has a ship, like I want you guys to be able to do stuff with them.
Allegedly.
So, yeah, well, I don't know, we'll have to talk to Tom about that. But yeah, I want you guys to be fully in control of that. So if it takes a few more episodes to kind of get through that, then, I think that's fine. And basically, it's kind of, when we've answered those dramatic questions, that's where it kind of ends, right? Because we've figured out what we wanted to figure out in that arc. So that's that. Basically.
Oh, James. Ouch. Enzo had a ship and then it sank when Faye stayed.
Woof.
Oh, that's a take. That's a spicy
good.
take.
That's good.
Clearly needed a stronger captain. I think this whole season 6, 10 episodes thing is a cute concept, but I propose we as players recreate the second act of Into the Woods, and all fire our armies at the GM, and then just continue playing this game forever, and he can't stop us.
Oh, I think even after the end of like season 6, when we wrap up and it's done, Mara is going to live rent free, and all of these characters are going to live rent free in my head until the day I die. When did we talk about this? Was it during Phasmo that we were saying that one day, right, there's going to be a bunch of us and we're all going to be old, and we're going to be
or something.
No, we're just going to be like in a nursing home somewhere, and memories failing, and you're going to get to a point where like we have embodied these characters so much, and the fact that we get so into them and we scream about them, and it's like their lives, like it's like they're their own person that lives in your head with their own life and experience, and it can feel very real when you're playing them. That one day, like I'm going to be sitting there and I'm going to have forgotten that Mara is a character made up. And I'm just gonna be like, yeah, at my wedding, we staged a coup and I killed a man, and just some poor care worker's gonna be like, what? Like, if you actually took the things that our characters did and just said them out loud to anybody who didn't know what you were talking about, it sounds insane. Just like
LARP stories are exactly the same. If you're in a bunch of LARPers, you're talking about what you did and what you this, that, and the other. If any regular person is walking past, they're hearing like this guy's talking about murdering a bunch of people. Like, what the fuck?
Did you hear the screaming match we had in Phasmo?
I did. I was watching. Yeah, I must have been doing something else at the same time, but like I had it on.
This ship you've got. I've got a ship. We're landlocked, you dickhead. Like, if anybody had walked past the house and actually heard that.
Yeah.
The best bit was when it was just like, I think Tom was like, you're trusting a bunch of people who are literally killing people, and you turned around and went, oh, so what is it that you do as a pirate then? Like,
the best bit was when the ghost started getting active and you both just went, fuck off, Mary, or whatever the ghost
I remember
was.
that bit. Yeah.
I was watching the camera in the room at one point, and because of the way the figures stand in Phasmo, they're kind of just like this. It did look like the two of them were just going like this at each other the entire time.
Italian rowing. Yeah. It turns out
yeah.
with some versions of Phasmo, you can stand in a room that is where the ghost spawns and scream at each other repeatedly for 20 minutes without any repercussions and then death. But the 20 minutes is sweet. I hope we'll always be comfortable like dropping into this shit, because even in 5 years' time, if somebody brings up like Miria's trauma and presses that button, Susie's going straight back into that rage.
Oh yeah.
And
yeah.
It'd be like
yeah.
day one feels.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, you can do it now. You've only got to bring up the Oliver death episode and the dream that Miria has, and Susie makes that face. But like, I feel like all of us, when this ends, there's just going to be a period where we do nothing but write fiction to just continue the crave of being like, oh, I want to play with this character more. Like, what are you doing now?
I love tormenting you guys a little bit by like, because like I know, like in my mind, I've made up. I know what Miria's lineage is, but I'm not going to tell you because that's not where the juice is.
No.
Yeah.
I think Don and I think I've told Don, because after Oliver died, we were chatting, I think, and I was like, I have decided. Do you want to know?
I don't think I can't say that because I'm a really nosy bitch and I want to know everything. But partly is not actually knowing is so much fun. It's so much juice.
Yeah.
It's such a good space to inhabit because there is that uncertainty. And there always is. Whenever Miri is making these declarations that she is the blood royal, in the back of my head, I'm like, are you though? Are you though?
Yeah.
You know, like it's always just right there.
That's what I mean. Like the way that the plot complicates, and that doesn't mean it has to be complex. It just has to mean that it's like difficult, and you have to have those little things, those little spaces, because that's where the juice lives. Yeah, absolutely. Oliver was secretly the most horny and queer character I think we've had on the entire show. From everything that Don has pitched to me and said he's wanted to happen, like in years past and stuff, I'm like, fucking hell.
you know how fucking horny and like a lad about town reputation Oliver has. When the attack on Ironwood was happening and Don was describing his character, and he was like, oh, he's a bastard, that he didn't really know his father much, but his father had a real hard on for like justice and freeing the Donish people. I immediately messaged Tom and went, Tom, what if this might be a problem? In the back of my head, I was like, did that motherfucker?
I really enjoyed that battle episode. I had a lot of fun.
Battles have always been difficult to figure out, because like the way they're written down on rules as written, it's very wargamey. But that's not what we're about as a group. So we've done a fair amount of house ruling. I liked that we got into a bit of a rhythm with it, and actually, I was thinking about how I was going to run it in the kind of days beforehand, and that like essentially the opposite side that you've just hit or done something with, like just immediately react, is a great rhythm actually, and it just takes the whole pressure or like initiative off me as well, because I can just be like, right, what do you want this bit of your army to do? Okay, they go and do that, right, and in response, the opposite side of wherever they are then do this. Cool, right, fine. And then it's all down to you of kind of how you want them to act and what bits you want. And it's just a set, like, vanguard, middle, rear, and then you just cycle that, and it's really easy at that point. But again, I think like we spoke a bit maybe before or just before the episode of like, we want to focus in on what the characters are doing much more than what the whole army is doing, and that having that wider scope. But I also want in the next season for it to be a bit of like how season 8 was hyped for Game of Thrones, where it was like, yeah, there's going to be like 3 battles and they're going to be huge. Like, I want there to be, a few. But again, I want that to be down to you guys of like where you want to send stuff. I'm taking a lot of cues from Crusader Kings, Susie. So get your Crusader Kings head on.
I need that mod to come out so I can play it out.
I know. Yeah, there'll be a Blackfyre war score. You know.
You've just got to capture the king, and then it goes
to 100%. Yeah. Exactly.
That's what you got to do.
Basically, yeah. In a way, if you think about it on a much grander scale, like if you want to take over the whole continent, you've got to try and take over as many individual kingdoms as you can. But of course, you know, you and I know that the biggest war score you get is from the capital, but they haven't gone for the capital yet. So there's a whole, you know, there's a whole journey for them to take.
Yeah, because immediately going to King's Landing is suicide. It would be the stupidest thing to do.
It's like Bitter Steel is like the stupid AI armies that would your allies that are just like, right, okay, the war score is get to this place and occupy this county. Cool. The AI's gone over there. You're like, why the fuck are you over there?
Hey, Bitter Steel, not Lemonwood. No, King's Landing's that way.
Why you? There's a 6k stack coming at me. Why are you sat over there occupying that fucking castle?
Sat there in Ironwood going, help.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Anyway.
Yeah. I'm here for it. I'm really, really excited to see where season 6 goes. There's gonna be some personal juice, there's gonna be some political juice, there'll be like worldwide juice.
What's like one scene that everybody wants to happen, like whether it will or not, even if it's Fantasyland nonsense?
Ooh.
Like for ourselves or for other people? Because I have a
Anything.
different answer for those. Because if it's for somebody else, I need to see Miria murder Horatio. I fucking hate that dude. He tried to kill a man at like Mara's first wedding. And
who would do that?
I need. Yeah, but you know, it was meant to be a tournament, and it was an unfair killing. He used poison. That's cheating. I just need to see Miria. Murder him. I was so mad when he got away.
I had planned it.
When he got away, I was like, but I'm wondering now, because Sam was like, I have 4 voices and one of them is Horatio. Is that why he can't die? Because then it bring you down to 3 voices. Because that plot armor.
No, I didn't want him to die there, honestly. I really didn't.
No,
like, that's not the
that
real fulfilling, like, you know, that is gonna, that in a way is gonna be at least, you know, a little like sub question for Miria for next season, I think, in terms of dramatic questions. Can I kill Horatio? Yeah, for sure.
Well, because now, like, she didn't just get the house and everything's fine, right? Like, he's still kicking around. There's a challenger.
Again, yeah, it's one of those complexities. It's one of those little spaces that needs to occupy your head, because I didn't quite do it 100%. Yeah. And so there's that little complicating factor, you know. Like, what's he going to do now? Yeah,
well, it doesn't just affect Miria, right? If he escapes and he takes another wife, or he ends up having a kid, that's the next generation's problem, because if Miria has children, they're going to have claim to Ironwood through her, but then his kids will have claim to Ironwood, and the conflict begins anew, because here's another, you know, there's claims to be pressed.
Like what Don was saying.
Whole thing. So
yeah,
he's got
stab in time.
I'll get you all of the dice, Susie, the next time Miria comes to face with him, because he's got to go.
You know, I don't know, like, as much as I would love Miria to survive season 6, part of me is like, she's not gonna make it. She's not gonna fucking make it. She's back to rebellion. There's a fucking faceless man out there somewhere. Horatio's out there. She threw a spear through the Prince of Dawn. Like, she's done some really fucking stupid shit. She's probably gonna come bite her back in the ass at some point. I'll be really sad when she dies, or if she dies. I say when, as if it's coming, but
everybody dies, Susie. Not everybody.
I know.
I know who the faceless man is. I want to know. That's a big mystery for me, because I played.
That's one of my big questions.
Yeah.
Who the fuck is Facey? Where is he? What's he doing?
Where's Facey?
Also, if he does pull off what Mary asked, what does he want as payment?
Oh, could you imagine if it was the house?
Well, he said, you know, he wants what's most important to Miria, which right now is her legacy, her name.
Oh.
And that's how that house of black and white kind of works. Like, it's not enough just to pay with coin. You like, that's what they ask for. They ask for like whatever's most valuable to you personally. That's how you pay those assassins.
Okay, I take it back. I don't want to see Horatio die. I want to see Miria meet up the faceless man. Yeah, gotta see.
I did have, talk about these like weird scenes. I did have a scene where it's like in the future, Miria's married, she's in Ironwood, like the rebellion's all done. And Facey turns up and she's like, okay, what do you want as payment? And then he just sort of like, I'll see you in a year. And then he's like, boom, you're pregnant, I'll have that baby in a year, bye. And I was like, that would be like,
oof.
It's kind of weird and crazy.
Even in our fantasies, we like giving these characters trauma. Like I bet every scene that all of us want for our own character is something like traumatic. Yeah. For me, it would be Mara. I'd love her to come face to face with Alistair after all this time and just that whole fucking mess between like him, her, and Samuel, and just that explode. That would be traumatic and juicy and terrible.
I want to see Alistair. I want to see what shape he's in after being in those black cells all these years. I want to see.
There are so many ways it could go. Like he could come out of there just broken and just done. He could come out of there angry and bitter at either one of them or both of them. He could still weirdly come out of there with like, no, but you're the love of my life. And that just be awful too. Like there are so many ways that could go wrong. He could come out of there and be all of them. Because the black cells are not known for being a place where you keep your sanity. Like, I don't even know if he knows. Like the last thing, I guess the last bit of big news he would have had about anything concerning his life is that Mara had lost the child, which he didn't know about until years after it happened. A couple of years. Thanks, Miria.
You're welcome.
And I suppose at some point he's going to hear that Mara's divorced him and married Samuel, and that's going to be a mess. It's gonna be so much death.
I'm a simple man. I want to sword fight Bloodraven, murder him, and doom the world about 100 years from now because of that.
Yep.
That's it. That's all I want.
And that's going to give us another example of how, Mara survives and Samuel gets himself killed because the women always live and the men always die is currently the theme of this campaign.
Do you know what I also would like? I would like to hammer and anvil Maekar and Baelor.
Yes, they deserve it.
Title of your sex tape?
Hey-o.
Sam, this community has people who write fiction. Don't put things out there that you don't want to read.
Look, I've already tried to fuck Baelor in a campaign. It didn't happen. I was pursuing that motherfucker like you would not believe.
Wait, you what?
What? Sorry, Don, you didn't hear that. It's okay.
Just live in ignorant bliss. It'll be fine.
Most of his children were his.
I really I really want a kind of Jaime Lannister getting his hand chopped off, cut to black moment. I really want a whether the juice takes us or like maybe I plan something in a session or something like that where it's a little bit of Miria getting abducted. That was a little bit of that, but of it being like almost a real left field, or it's just a character dies and someone was like, "What the fuck?" and we just that's it. Like that's the end of that episode. I'd love a moment like that because like I remember like when the show was good. Like I remember the producers, or the fuck they're called again, talking about how like right, cool story. I was watching Don, I know you need to go in a second. I was watching that season on not legitimately on the interwebs, and I watched that scene. He gets his hand cut off, and it is literally like 3 seconds of him screaming with a stump, and it cuts straight into the what they're called, the Ghost Steady, and it's like the rock version of the thing. And I was like, the fuck is that? Is someone dubbed over this? What the fuck is it? And I paused and I went back and I had to Google it. I was like, what's the song at the end of that episode? And it all came up, legit, it's this rock song that they put because they wanted it, because when you read it in the books, it is that kind of, Jaime Lannister just got his sword hand cut off. What the fuck? It's a big what the fuck moment, and they wanted to do that. They wanted to reflect it. Again, they don't know what fucking subtext is, so they wanted to, they wanted to give you that moment in making you go, huh? Because there was a rock song at the end of the episode. I want one of those moments. I want one of those. I don't know. Harris gets a crossbow bolt through the temple and he just falls over, and that's it at the end of the episode. Or or Facey shows up and some guy flops over and Maron flops over Facey, does his face and then cut to black, whatever. I want one of those moments for sure.
Sam, if you're gonna kill Harris, just let Miria smooch him first. Just let her have one. At least one.
I know I really want that. I really, really, really want that ship, but I don't want to make it easy for the characters either.
Yeah, no. It doesn't make sense for them to be throwing themselves at each other either, but still. just one.
I want Faye to find out what happened to her knight. And I want her to find that out and confront Samwell, because we've had a situation where they've all been nicey and very polite, and I want them to have a fucking argument. I want to see what happens when they both lose control a little bit. When it's cards actually on the table as opposed to playing nice.
Yeah.
Because Don is not the only messy bitch that loves drama.
I mean, I feel like by merit of this campaign, we are all messy bitches who love drama,
It's
because
fair.
we all keep making choices that just add to the pile of drama and trauma for our characters.
It's not really a pile anymore. It's more like a continent.
I think it's growing sentience and taking on its own life,
Yeah. Anyway, Don, you got to shoot, right?
Yeah, I do. But this was a blast. I hope we get to do more after the fires. If the next season, if there's time for it, I think that'd be really cool, because I love chatting about this stuff with everybody.
Do the rest of you want to hang on?
Yeah, can do.
I can always hang on. I've always got more I want to say.
You always got more you want to say? All right. Okay, we're going to take a very...
I was going to say, I can hang on too, but I need to take a 5-minute break because I can't.
Absolutely. Yeah. So I'm going to go back to the loading screen, whatever it is. I got to redo the cameras. But in chat, tell us what you're looking for as well. What was a moment you want to see, and we'll be right back. Hi everyone. Virginia is smoking a cigarette. I hope you all don't mind, because we don't.
I'm in pain. Forgive me.
Nailed it, Sam.
Just call you out straight. Just call it out straight away.
fine.
We can get over that
Yeah.
moment.
I feel like you're leading me astray. And
Sorry, Millie.
I feel corrupted.
You're setting a bad example for the children.
They
Cancelled.
they shouldn't be
It's
up
a
at this
mature
time
channel.
of night on a school day, on a weekday.
They
And
certainly
also,
shouldn't be watching this show.
no,
Definitely
no,
not.
no. This show is basically murder, sex, and trauma. That's it.
That's the tagline for the show.
Mainly murder and trauma at this point.
Yeah, like, and I would quite like a bit more smoochies. A bit more, a
Well, why don't you
little bit
stop
more
sending
smart.
ravens
like
for 5
Mara's got-
minutes? And we'll do it.
Mara's been the luckiest in that department, I think.
Cock blocking
Oh.
birds.
Just make friends with Mara. She will lead you to a whole host of bad decisions.
Right.
That is the next bit of merch, right?
Cock blocking
Cock
birds.
blocking birds with like a raven sat on their little like
Just a
font
little
logo
note.
format. I'm writing that down. Shit, I'm gonna design that next.
Millie,
Sorry,
you
Stamper-
joke. Oh, gone, V.
I was just saying, Sampa made a good point. The cast are all children, though. Yes, on the
Wow.
inside.
That's
We
true.
we are all 10.
Growing up's for quitters.
Yeah.
I want that on a t-shirt.
I remember being a kid and literally knowing that I did not want to grow up. I was like,
Really?
I was 7, 8 or something. I'm just being like, I don't want to grow up.
That looks
Being-
shit.
Being an adult's a con. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
I see.
Yeah.
I was way too responsible until I hit my not even late 20s. It's like the last 5 years. Like, oh yeah, I don't want to do. No, I don't want to. This sucks.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna be a kid. Don't care.
I attempt responsibility. You know, that's the most adulthood is getting out of me, because it's all a lie. Nobody knows what the fuck they're doing. And you know, realistically, my job and my hobby is to play pretend and make games. So
Could
I
be
am not ready
worse.
to grow up.
Could be worse.
There it is. Cock blocking birds.
Birds. Here for it. I'm here for it.
Naming things and slogans. I think that's what I'm for. Like in life.
You are good at that. Like I see a lot of it in like chat, like Jay's chat and some of our
Yeah.
chat too. Like I see a lot of that. It's very good.
That's just
very
how
good.
my brain works.
You have so many talents, Millie. Like when we were doing
Nah.
stuff for the Byron stream and we were doing graphic design, Millie has got the best eye for graphic design.
I used to
Like-
live with a web designer, and that was kind of my part in that whole partnership was for him to go, ta-da, I made this thing. I'm like, okay, cool, I've broken it, so fix that. Also, this doesn't make sense. Like that's kind of a like part of the ADHD superpower thing. Like I weaponize
Right.
that
Yeah.
because you can, if you can design a website or anything so that somebody with ADHD can easily take in the information, anybody will be able to. So I guess graphic design is kind of similar.
Reminds me actually of when we were going through again the sessions area that we had, and we were going through some of the mechanics, and I was like, because you were saying, you know, I'm gonna it's gonna take me a long time to really get and understand this and understand what the dice are about and how this all works. And then kind of either just before or just as we were doing, I thought, you know what, it's actually going to be the easiest is get some dice in your hand.
Yeah.
Because then it's like,
Yeah.
okay, so, you know, these are your dice, these are your bonus dice, you roll all of them, and then you keep the best this many, and you rolled it, you were literally like, oh, that makes sense. Whereas
Yeah,
like on
yeah,
roll
for
20,
sure.
it's like roll
Yeah, it's just
5
numbers. Yeah.
letters and numbers, and
Yeah.
then somehow you get a result at the end of it.
The main problem I have is like I'll understand something in the moment, but if you ask me about it in 10 minutes, it's just like that never happened. So I
Yeah.
think part of this has been like me getting comfortable and you getting comfortable with me just kind of going, just tell me what to do. I'll do like tell me what to roll and I will role play the result of that.
Yeah.
But I think it's easy when you find stuff like that to almost see it like a test, like you're not doing it right if you don't get the mechanics. And this has definitely been like a learning experience for me to be like, no, that's not what I'm for.
This isn't what we're about either, this group.
Yeah. No.
That's not what we're about. No one needs to
Mechanics
take
always
it.
comes secondary
Yeah.
to the fun and
Yeah.
the story and
Yeah.
the
No one
drama.
needs to. No one needs to take a test to be able to play.
Yeah.
Like
No.
it's fucking stupid.
And that's what's been such a joy, like role playing with all of you. And I really want to scene with Susie. Like, get me in there, because I've not played with a group that's been this free before. Aside from like in other groups, I think Susie and I have played together in the campaign that Tom ran.
And we were in the
Yeah.
Crownlands. You know,
Yeah.
we
Oh,
We
yeah,
were in the
yeah.
Crownlands.
Couple of-
Yeah.
Yeah, God, yeah.
we were
So,
all
like, this-
siblings.
Yeah, like this group, there's something about that is very collaborative, and I've never once felt like I had to do anything. And I think that's really rare.
Mm.
Like there's a big story going on outside of all that obviously Sam is somehow running in his head. But we as characters can kind of do whatever we want to, or at least try to.
Well, that's my superpower. Is like having a world, a world kind of in my head, and like. A lot of the times, the way I write is I will literally just imagine a scene out in my head, like daydream a scene out in my head. How do I think it would work? And then V knows the face, and I'm like, oh, what if
used to
this?
Sam used to do this when we were back in the office. Like Sam would be at his desk and we'd be at lunch, and we'd sit and have lunch at our desks and talk, and I'd often overhear bits of ATF planning that Sam was doing for things that I was like entirely not involved in, and the amount of times he'd be like, I've just been thinking about this, and I'm like, what are you doing to them now?
It was always those kind of connections, like the ones that you inadvertently made about at the time that Samwell slept with Mara, actually he and Faye were still a thing. It's making those connections, making those larger connections. And like I say, just the planning that I do is now so much more along the lines of what are all of the given circumstances, rather than what is the next step in the plot. Because actually I don't know that, but I know what all the characters want to do.
Yeah, that just blows my mind that you can do that. That is such a unique skill, I think, for this kind of game. And particularly like the level of knowledge that you and like Susie's like a fucking encyclopedia. I don't know how you do it.
I don't either.
But
I can't hold all the history.
No.
Like Susie knows
Well,
all
so
the
here's the
canon
thing.
lore. I can't even
Here's the
remember
thing.
who's king. Like
When Sam first pitched ATF, I was not a Game of Thrones Song of Ice and Fire fan. I'd stopped watching the show season 4 when it was that Jaime Cersei rape scene and they fucked it really bad. I was like, I don't want anything to do with this anymore. This is fucking horrific. And then Sam pitched it, and then Sam told us about the Blackfyre rebellion, and I was like, this sounds like history. And so that history is like my big fucking nerd thing. So I started like deep diving. I was like, okay, because George Martin did base a lot of Song of Ice and Fire on actual history.
Yeah.
I was looking at stuff being like, oh, that's John of Gaunt. That's Henry VIII. That's fucking Catherine of Aragon right there. Like, you know what I mean? I could pick out who the historical figures were. And because I've memorized all that shit, it was easy for me to memorize the After the Fyre, Song of Ice and Fire lore. So it just sticks in there as if it's actual history. So I could sit and I could give you a fucking 4-hour lecture about Aegon, Aegon's conquest. I could lecture you about the fucking first Blackfyre rebellion. I could do it all because it's just like it's hit that history part of my brain where I memorize all these stupid facts.
So what irritates me about myself is that I'm not that knowledgeable or passionate about real history when I know that this stuff is based on that. But I'm a sucker for a documentary. So if you present it to me in 6 exciting Netflix shows, then that I'm there.
if you give me like a good drama with a voiceover kind of style documentary about history, I'll watch that for hours.
You guys write it, I'll record it, and should be fine.
Commitment. She said it. That's basically a contract. Go.
Said it.
Let's do
That's it. Clip it, someone.
James,
We got it on tape.
Oh man.
But I will say, even if you haven't intentionally done it, the way this world has worked and the way the characters have acted, certain lords like Leo is he is a peacetime king. Everything's great. He's throwing his dick around, waving it at France, basically. He is Henry VIII-ish before things started kicking off for Henry VIII. He's young, well, not young, but he's powerful. There's nothing major going on. I'm great. I'm awesome. Everybody loves me.
Glory and the attention.
Likes the glory.
And
yeah, there's a lot of things, a lot of parallels that you've unintentionally put in there that I'm like, yeah, good job, Sam.
Not entirely consciously, not consciously at all, to be fair, because I didn't know that, that exact thing about Henry VIII or whatever, but it was just about grounding those characters. Because the weird thing is that there are certain canonical things that we get about this period of time in Westeros and about the characters that are there, because even that we are still playing slightly in the past of those events. In Sworn Sword, the Tawny Ashford is about to happen, where the first trial of the Seven is about to happen in hundreds of years, and so Leo Tyrell is a knight, is a lord, is Lord Paramount of the Reach because George Martin wrote that. That's I've not invented that, but what I have invented, and it was really the roll of the dice because I randomized some of the intentions and the motivations and all that kind of stuff, to flesh him out a little bit, because he's basically a knight. A lot of the kind of side characters of that little kind of novella, or that little series of short stories that George Martin wrote, they're Sam's lordly voice number one. A lot of them, they're quite bland, and it's just this knight from this place, and they have this heraldry, and this knight from this place, and Whereas if we're going to be interacting with these characters for a long time, your Lord Paramount has to have a personality, because otherwise it's really dull.
Yeah.
And so, a lot of that stuff isn't canonical. And I've played enough of this game. Greenmont Song of Ice and Fire is the game I've played literally the most in my time with the hobby. And so I thankfully have a bit of experience running it. So I know that there is absolutely no way you're going to stick to canon 100%. So I just kind of abandoned that day one and was like, okay, whatever we do now, that's our canon. Which is why we have a second Blackfyre Rebellion that is nothing to do with how it actually happened in the Sworn Sword.
It's already more successful.
Well, exactly, right?
I remember, Sam, when you first told me about, because I didn't know there was a Song of Ice and Fire role-playing game. I was a big Game of Thrones fan, and Sam, James, and I, and some of Sam's friends used to do watch parties for the last couple of seasons. At Sam's, and I remember you going. We were on the way home, going towards the station. You're like, I'd really like to. Maybe we can run one of those games. And I think it must have been before season 7 or season 8. I can't remember now. I think before season 7. And I was like, wait, there's a role playing game. Sam, you should run this. I want to play it. Run it. And then there was it was talked about a lot, and I kept asking, and then eventually Sam was like, hey, so there's these other people doing this really awesome, that we're going to do some Song of Ice and Fire, do you want to play? And I was like, yes, gimme, I want to play. And it's exactly as messy as I hoped it would be.
Yeah. I was speaking to you about it. I think I pretty quickly, off the back of Acton Cthulhu, talked to you, Susie, about it. I spoke to Charlie, because I was speaking to Charlie a lot at the time as she was watching Acton Cthulhu, and I was chatting to her a lot about DMing and stuff like that, as she was running a couple of shows, I think, on Encounter before taking it on kind of in a production capacity as well. So yeah, Tom was a recommendation from Charlie, and I think I remember Tom saying that he wasn't sure about it. And he wasn't a massive Game of Thrones fan, but he was going to give it a go. And then Don was another recommendation as well from Charlie, and he's a massive Song of Ice and Fire fan, so he was on board. Jason as well. I'd seen you role play with him, Susie, and I thought he was really cool, so I wanted to play with him, and I don't know, we just kind of got it together, I guess, and gave it a go.
Charlie got me involved as well.
It's true.
I'm so glad that you're playing with this, Millie. I didn't get to
Yeah,
watch
I am
much
too.
of Crown Lands, but I remember like jumping into bits of episodes, and I can't remember what was going on in it, but I remember it was a scene where you were playing Tala, and I was just like, I mean, I obviously I knew who you were because I was in Jay streams a lot, but I was like, oh, Millie's such a cool role player. I want to play games with Millie. I'm like the worst though, because
thanks.
like I see people, I'm like, oh, I really want to do cool things with you, but I don't want to. I don't want to. I don't know how to talk to people.
People should shoot their shot more often.
Yeah,
like,
for sure.
Just talk to people.
I have absolutely learned that through this, because I don't think I would ever have approached you personally, Sam, because I would have been too terrified to be like, I want to be in your thing.
Are you serious? That's mad. Like, almost the opposite. Like, you know, I don't just want to be to most folks that have a decent streaming presence or a kind of presence on the internet in the tabletop space. I don't just want to be, will you just come and play with us on our show? Like, we can't really offer anything, but we'll have a good time. Because, you know, it's you do want to also reward people in different ways, either financially or whatever, and we just, you know, we can't, but we have an amazing time, and that's what's kept the group together so long, is that, you know, we still love, like you said, how messy it is. And like just I really enjoy the game and playing with each other. So yeah.
I think we've always
I'm really glad. I'm really glad.
Right, that this is our home game. We just stream it
for sure.
Yeah.
Because it definitely like because we've been playing like what, nearly 2.5 years, something like that.
It must have been more than 2 by now.
2.5, I think, because we started in like April 2 years ago.
Yeah.
And like it's gone from like the only person that I really knew very well when this game started out was Sam, because obviously we worked together. And there's a long complicated story about how many times Susie and I should have met and didn't. But like I think I remember like for the first year I didn't really know anyone else that well, because I was just like, everyone is so cool and I don't want to be like, hey, can we be friends? Because like, you know, I'm an adult who doesn't understand how to make friends. And like now these people that I play with are like my best friends in the world. Like I love all of you dearly.
Yeah, absolutely. Our private ATF Discord server is at the top of my list.
Yeah.
It's the Discord server I look at like a social media platform. Like I open it up to look at it.
Yeah.
It is the only Discord server that I leave notifications on for. Including my own. Sorry.
That's basically a
folks who
proposal.
visit my Discord. I love you all, but
Streamer exposed, doesn't listen to our own Discord server.
But you know, I live at my computer, so I see it anyway. But like the ATF Discord is literally the only one that I have all the notifications onto. I do have someone in my own Discord, Stamper. I have some of the channels, just not all of them. But like it's great. There's like a routine to it. I get up in the morning, I look at it. Sam's already posted a meme about it being in the morning.
Susie's posted a shit post overnight.
That you catch in the morning. Sam has posted some incredible meme about the mood for the day.
I am quite proud about how I named the channels though. A song
I
of
don't
shit.
know if anyone apart from us knows.
A song of shit posts. Well, so we had we had High Garden as a voice channel, right? That was like the first voice channel, and then we changed that to Fox Hollow. But then we ended
up with High Garden Spam.
High Garden Spam is the shit posting place you go to if you don't want to notify anybody, because it was like, guys, we're going to create this channel, turn the notifications off. This is for when we're chatting on voice and we just want to like spam photos and stuff to each other. Yeah.
I love going to High Garden Spam after I know that like somebody's been on, like if I've dropped out of voice chat midway through the night, or I've seen that other people on while I've been doing stuff, because you go there the next day and you're like, I've got no context.
It's like, what the fuck happened in here?
So fucking incriminating, like so much out of context.
I've just been like, in bed or somewhere else, and I've just seen that High Garden Spam's got highlighted, but I've got no notification, so I kind of thing, and I see things being posted live, and then I swear at one point or another I've literally messaged in there bigger like, what the fuck are you guys talking about?
Or like, are you okay?
Yeah, it's like some kind of logic puzzle. Like, I have to be able to figure this out. Like, what is the train of thought here?
Yeah.
But it's so cool to find people that you vibe with like that, and that you're right. It does completely feel like a home game, and it's awesome to have people watching it and contributing and reacting and
to help confirm our terrible choices, that continue to enable us to keep pressing buttons. But I think it's why this group feels, like Millie was saying, like you can do anything. And the fact that we can have, like you were talking earlier about having a romance storyline with somebody else who's a player character. And like being able to do that and feeling safe in doing that, because you don't get that in just like a pickup game. You don't get that in, like both Sam and I have run plenty of games on stream at this point, and I've loved all the groups I played with, but they've like, because they're so short-lived games, you don't build those connections that you get to really trust someone in that way. Especially doing the storylines that we have where there is PvP, like that's always on the table. That's always a possibility. When there are romantic storylines, like Millie, I've never had a romantic storyline in an RPG. So being able to like role play with Don, who's a friend who I trust, where you can actually talk about it and like figure it out and know that nobody's gonna be weird, and it's not gonna, like you can just be like, hey, should we do this with our characters? Should we do that? Like,
what are the boundaries?
Not sitting there going, are they gonna think I'm really crazy if I suggest this thing? Like,
that's we already know that's the baseline.
Yeah. But that's it. Like, and that's gone on to inform, the way that James, Susie, and I talk in Black Hats. It's that like we tap the sign, we talk, we have like an open and honest dialogue, communication. And this campaign is the first time where that really actually, like, not made sense. Like, really happened for me. I think I was like, because of the material. Because of the setting, and I guess kind of the expectation of Game of Thrones, like there's going to be sex and death and violence and stuff, that, I was like, the only constructive way that we're going to, run any plot lines that, could be a worry for somebody or could even be triggering for somebody, we need to talk it out. We always need to talk it out. And that is like the first thing now that I do. And that, it's not enough that just safety tools are there, because that's like, I almost feel like sometimes that if you've used a safety tool, it's almost too late. Like, you want to check in, you almost want to, and there is always that balance, I feel, that, as a GM and as a kind of, GM that likes to like, kind of direct a game a little bit. I don't want to spoil stuff, but I equally want to make sure everyone is all right. And it's always that balance to strike, I think. But I always remember the threesome scene. Scene and thinking like, I'm gonna make sure in chat that V's okay. Any hint of any.
Me outright on stream, like mid-stream, and I think there are lots of people that are afraid to do that mid-game, because it's really easy to do the safety tools in a session 0, right? It's nerve-wracking, especially if you're being watched by people, to come out and pause stuff for a minute to go, is this okay? Because like you don't want to make anyone uncomfortable, and you don't want to do that. I mean, Sam knows what I'm like off of stream anyway. And I wouldn't have a problem with it. I didn't even realize what was happening. And then I did, and I was like, I'm here, fanfic episode. That's what that is in my head. It's the fanfic episode. Because I may or may not have written fanfic about it at one point, which no longer exists. I did, but it was, the thing is,
oh, that squeak.
Yeah, no, I did. I wrote fanfic about it. Like I used to write fanfic when I was younger, so I did, and it was great. And I was like, this is just like more for fun. And then Samuel stopped being an NPC, and I found it one day, and I was like, we're getting rid of this now. This is weird.
Yeah, totally.
Diary from years ago, like, oh no,
people been there. But like, Sam, you've always handled it really well, because I remember obviously Mara went through a really distressing time where she miscarries, she loses her baby, and I remember you talking to me about it before the show, before those few episodes where that happened, and just went, are you okay with this? Because if you're not, it just doesn't happen.
Yeah, like, I remember I think I was said, that it is the possibility of this okay. That it's a and that's maybe that's the that's the line that you can toe when it comes to like spoiling stuff, I think, is that you can be like, you know, well, if bringing a baby to term is the theme, then what do you not want to cover, or what do you absolutely want to cover? You know, do you want to cover the kind of biology and experience of pregnancy, or do you not? Do you want to, you know, is there the possibility of miscarriage? Is there the possibility of things going wrong at birth? You know, all that kind of stuff. So yeah,
and it felt like it was very true to kind of the way that Game of Thrones displays a lot of stuff for a lot of female characters, because being married and childbirth is a big thing, and all of those things going wrong. We see it a lot with Cersei with her children, and either way that plot line would have went, because I said to Sam, I am like, whichever way it goes, if it's a roll of the dice, if it's like a conscious decision that's made, I'm happy with whichever one, because ultimately both of those things would have been very informing from a character perspective, because this is a thing that Mara had wanted since before she was married, obviously. And so losing her child has greatly impacted the journey that she goes on after that. But also, had it not turned out like that, it would have been very interesting, because I definitely would have wanted to explore the whose baby is this anyway.
yeah,
Which is a thing that she always had questioned and was never answered for her until she speaks to Marcia that night that Marcia tries to murder her, when Marcia tells her what it was she asked the gods for, and Mara finally got an answer and then was swiftly knocked unconscious by a really big shadow cat.
I think that kind of like broaching topics ahead of time without spoilering is a really powerful tool, and I think it's part of the reason that games like this that do cover dark subject matter lead to such tight-knit groups, because you're getting to know like the absolute breadth of people in multiple different lifetimes and possibilities of like what could this person have been like, if what are they capable of, what are their strengths, what are their weaknesses, what triggers them. In real life, you don't learn people in that level of complexity, and you certainly only learn one version of them. Like for a couple of you have played with me before, and some people like in real life would have met Tala, and some people would have met Faye, and that's it. You don't. It's very rare you get to meet somebody in multiple different guises through their life, or multiple different options.
Yeah.
It's just fascinating to me.
I think there's also a way that you get to know the people that you're playing with, right? Because when you do cover the darker topics, or trying to find out, you know, what is somebody okay with, when you're playing a game like this where the characters are so involved and everything is so personal, and all of us are maybe a bit too attached to them, like you start to find out what people are like as people. Like where are the boundaries between what, you know, what they think and what they feel, and then where do they separate from their character? Because I think Millie and I talked about this, and that all of your characters are in some way some reflection of you, whether it's a darker reflection, whether it's an extreme, whether it's the opposite of what you are. There's always a bit of you scattered in there. And I think it's really interesting when you get to play with people in games like this, and then you're good friends with them too, you start seeing which bits of their characters are them and which bits aren't them, and like how that plays into it. Like I can't remember what it was you said now, Millie, but you said something and I went, I feel really seen, and you were like, yeah, that's basically Bea and Faye, and I'm like, me and Mara too.
Yeah, it's like an aspect of your personality turned up to 11, and you get to play with that in a way that you couldn't without repercussions in the real world. Just like I'm gonna like some of the shit that's come up with Faye. Like Sam created this character, what, 2 years ago? And and then decided that he wanted me to play her. And it was only when we were going through in our personal session 0, and I was like,
I remember,
So her dad died and left her the house. Are you fucking kidding me?
Yeah.
Because that was literally what I was going through at the time. Like I just lost my father. So there's a lot of stuff in Faye's backstory that has actually been really therapeutic for me to work through, like that feeling of responsibility and being able to put parts of that to bed. And I think there's a lot of therapy that can be gained if you role play heavy in tabletop. because you get to work through shit that you would get slapped down for if you tried it in real life.
Yeah,
I think
absolutely.
sometimes you end up working through stuff or end up bringing elements of your real life into something, sometimes without even knowing. Like I look back now on Mara's arc just after Oliver died, where she desperately tries to hold on and then it all goes wrong. And then the next time that we see her, she's finally trying to, like, she spends some time reflecting on what she did and why she did it. And I didn't realize this until not too long ago, actually, when I was just sitting writing some fic about Mara. But that was around the time that my engagement ended, that like her marriage was coming to an end and she was still trying to figure out all of this, and she went through all these ridiculous phases of emotion. And in writing all of that fic, I had no idea that that was my brain also processing this other thing that had kind of passed but hadn't. And then reading back some of those fics, I was like, oh wow, the parallels.
Hindsight is so 2020 with tabletop characters, right? You look,
Sure
look back and you're like, oh, well, that's when I was working through that stuff, and that's when I was dealing with that. Oh, I learned things.
So basically, it's just been one huge therapy session. I mean, my character's slogan of "Daddy issues and treason ain't that for nothing." Though I'm not treasonous, I will say, Queen Elizabeth II, you fine. I don't want to.
There's a reason that Susie had to move to Canada.
Hello, is that Canadian citizenship?
Yeah.
I would like to request a cider and chill t-shirt.
Cider and chill.
Because I don't think Faye's ever going to get to do it.
Cock blocking Raven.
Cock blocking birds was so good.
I just need us to keep making t-shirts that makes my mother give me that look. Like I was wearing the daddy issues and treason one the other day downstairs, just like having a cigarette, and I saw my mum just like looking at it and reading it and just looking at me. And for any context for anyone, I have a very short Filipino mother who's exactly as you would picture that short Filipino lady. Okay, she's that person. And I'm like, no, it's a thing from a game that I'm in. It's a slogan.
No
thing.
way. You can't give that context. That is not possible.
Just worse. I've worn that t-shirt in front of my mother. She hasn't said a damn word. And I'm like, wow, Mum. Wow.
You got red there, Susie.
It's her fault.
To answer your question, Stamper, the t-shirt was better than the time my mum overheard Jay's stream on speaker.
Oh God, I'm so sorry.
No, please do throw your questions in chat. We did have a couple. Let's have a look. The first one was... I lost it. Will Simon find Mara to talk one last time?
Oh,
I would love for them to. Jason and I have talked about it. Jason and I have role played scenes between like Mara and Simon that are like scenes that would have been, or I think he once did a whole role play of like what happened when Mara went to visit him at wherever he was in there, like in the 1 year spring break after Samuel had found him again. I hope Jason can come back for the final season for a couple of episodes at least, but Jason has a job and like he's being a functional adult, so I can't fault him for it.
Yeah, we're looking to go back to Thursdays, so I don't know how possible that might be, but I'd love to see Simon a couple more times.
Yeah,
just before the end of the season.
Mara's got some questions for him, like, where the hell were you when I nearly died? What was this whole just giving me a look at the trial and not even asking me how I was?
He just wants to fuck with him. Not fuck with him. Fuck.
Alistair already tried
that. Showing there, Millie.
No. Alistair already tried to fuck with Simon, and Simon was very alarmed by this and told Mara, and Mara was like, I don't know, you're going crazy. What are you talking about? I don't think it's ever crossed her mind, like after the Samuel incident, to be like, wait a minute, maybe he did make a pass at my brother. She's never had that revelation.
Fair enough.
All right, next question. What would each character see as a good ending to where they are / the current situation?
Ooh.
And
I
quick
think-
follow-up, who do you want to win the war?
Ooh. Well, okay, for me, easy. Blackfyre, duh. Otherwise, would not have backed them. That would be a very stupid decision. I think a good ending for Miria is that she establishes herself as Lady Vinewood. She builds a legacy. She builds a future. You know, she finds someone. They have children. She can instill on them her values, try to get them to be better people than she was, as Oliver, I hope, kind of did for her a little bit.
Questionable.
Maybe not brainwash them as much as Oliver did Miria, but you know, I think that's a good ending for her. That would be like the good sort of soppy ending for her, I think. But for me personally, Queen of Dawn, duh.
I think for Mara, for her, she just wants to be happy. Like that was all she wanted back in season 1, was to get married to this guy that she thought was amazing and just try and do some good, but ultimately just be happy and maybe raise a family that didn't have some of the dysfunction that her own did. Not for her personally, but like for her siblings that she saw. And maybe have some input into like not having blood feuds that last forever, which means the Reach forever raids Dawn because they can't let it go. So I think for her, like the best ending would be coming out topside in the war, whether that's winning or whether that's just getting out lucky. Like the way that House Tarly did in the last one, where they were on the wrong side, but thanks to influence and wealth and stuff, they kind of still came out on top. And just having a family and just trying to be happy and move past all of the stuff that's happened before that just she cannot in some ways let go of. Like I just want her to learn to move on. That would be the happy ending, but I don't think it's gonna play out like that.
I think for Faye, if you ask me as a player, I think the best thing for Faye is for her to get over this obsession with keeping her name and protecting her people. Like the best thing for her would be if somebody burnt Golden Grove to the fucking ground and she could just walk away without any responsibility and learn how to be selfish.
What is this
hi,
notebook?
Susie, hey, now.
Hey, what?
Yeah, in an ideal world for Faye, in my head, she gets to like run off with her pirate and make her own name, like make her own story, because she's been living eternally with other people's. But for Faye, where she is right now, for her, the happy ending is slowly working her way up that line of people who were responsible for her family's death and hurting them very badly. That would be like ripping Costain's tongue out would be happy for her.
Do it.
I'm telling you, Millie, Faye and Miria would be fucking besties. Jesus. Because they are very, very similar. We said this before. They have so many similarities between the two of them.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'll hold Costain down while you rip his tongue out.
I'm happy to deliver him to you as well, just like a Costain-sized parcel.
I'm enjoying this.
Just at the end of a big stick, so you stay out of Miria's reach.
This is really how Mara and Miria finally make it up, when they realize that despite how much they could hate each other, there are other people they hate more, and you know, Mara can ferry them to them with her newfound position. Just be like, and that one. I've got a lot of hostages. Which ones do you want to kill? Like, take your pick.
Wow.
First of all, Miria would not kill a hostage and has not yet. She has her own hostage that is alive still, despite being a Martell. And I want to say that is some extreme self-restraint right there. I'm going to put that out.
But is that because she's a good bargaining chip?
Probably not, because her dad just fucking sold her off when she was like 12 and Horatio didn't really seem to give a shit about her. So I doubt anyone's going to rally to come get her.
But if
she's
it was Horatio, really, you wouldn't feel the same? Is it the hostage thing that you have an issue with, or is it just that person?
If it was Horatio, he'd be given his due process. He'd be captured, tried, and then executed.
So as long as
I
there's the
saw
appearance,
those.
what I've
Uh-huh.
learned here is that as long as there's an appearance of it being fair, Miria's fine with it.
Yeah,
Hey,
that's what I heard.
That was me talking. That
So
was me
in Mara's
talking.
defense, she did give Ellery a choice twice.
Mm-mm.
He
Anyway,
was never
next
going to be any
question.
good for you. He was going to be a traitor. He had sold you out. He loved Uncle Makar too much. Mara did you a favor. Now you can smooch Harris with no guilt.
Unky Makey.
It's gonna
Now
be
you-
so much guilt when she finds out. She's gonna be like, "Fuck."
But she can smooch Harris. Mara's done her a favor.
I
Not
smoked it
how
still
favors
good.
work.
I mean, sometimes it is in Westeros. Sometimes murder is a favor in Westeros.
Sometimes. Okay, next question. If you could pick how another character died, who and how?
Ooh.
So I'm going to say probably out of main cast rather than NPCs. So if one of us had to bite it, how and who? That's oof. Sam, if you had to kill another one of us, having killed two of us already, who and how?
I think if Horatio won against Miria, that would be quite a Game of Thronesy kind of, unhappy ending.
Yeah.
Is it in a kind of where she's bitten off more than she can chew kind of way?
Oh yeah, give us all unhappy endings.
Yeah.
That's the aim.
Wow, that is a sentence.
No, I kind of just want Sam to tell us
Flip
all
it.
like how he would like us to die if he could have his
Yeah.
way.
I don't know. I want to
Or
be
not even
really.
necessarily die, but just like what? There are some fates worse than death.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah. I can't say for Mara because I don't want to give anything away.
Oh, V. Ooh.
Oh,
Watch out.
Susie, I've been waiting for like 5 seasons to see if when Mara bites the bullet. I've always assumed it's a matter of when with this game. Anything with Mara is I'd want her to have like a good death. I would want it to be fitting. I'm not a fan of any character kind of dying just for the sake of dying.
I think for Faye again, I can't really say again because of the motives involved. Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah, we're digging. There's something going on under there.
Yeah, there is.
I think it would be quite interesting to see, like, if Samuel dies, to see him either go out, like, sticking to something that he knows was wrong, like, because he's so stubborn, in the way that I feel like a lot of our characters are, that, like, he picks a path and he will just go for it. And also because I know some of Don's other intentions and what would happen if we had another, like, 5 seasons of this game, of what Samuel's moves would be, because Don has thought that far ahead for some bits of this. But I think that would be fitting to see it be something where he realizes he's gone too far, but once you get the momentum, you can't turn back. Or Alistair, I think that would be interesting, depending on how Alistair would come out of prison. Alistair killing the both of them, I in some way would be horribly fitting for them, because his wife and his best friend basically betrayed him entirely. I can see from his point of view, and it would be amazing that, like, even if it was after the war, like if they come out of the war, if it was won and they got there, they're like, we got what we wanted. But then Alistair rocks up and is the one to ruin it. Like, that would be very...
Or I could see Sir Gawain also trying to settle a score with Samwell as well. Like there'd be a single combat in that like a battle or something, and actually, Sir Gawain, for the roles or whatever it is, comes out on top. I could see that.
But, Samuel and Mara made that bed. They're gonna die in it.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
But yeah,
I'd like to see an assassination. I feel we've seen any assassinations. I feel like we've seen like battle fights and stuff, and deaths where, like, legitimately, Alistair and Samuel were trying to capture Sir Oliver, and Dom pushed it, and I remember even chatting to him in the Zoom call, like in the chat bit, about because he was like, no, I want to burn a destiny point. And I was like, you realize that means death, right? Rather than just, because mechanically you could have survived that, thing. And he's like, no, I want to push on. I want to use my quality. I want to take a wound. And it's like, you die.
Very Oliver though, wasn't it? Like,
oh yeah, 100%.
Yes.
Yeah, and Dom was pushing the right buttons for the scene in that sense.
I think that was so wonderful though, because there was no way that Alistair should have been able to win that. Alistair should have been dead. And I think sometimes those are the really interesting moments where somebody who should or shouldn't have been able to do a thing does the opposite. Alistair shouldn't have had the combat power to kill Oliver. Oliver, without his wounds, would have cut Samwell into 4 pieces before he could blink. But he didn't. He came out on top. And I think those would be like the most interesting kind of character deaths for me if one of us had to go, like dying, doing something they shouldn't have been able to do, or not doing something they should have been able to do.
I would really like one of those moments, like Sam said, like the Jaime Lannister hand cut off cut. Like, one of us on the battlefield, like Samwell turns on the battlefield and he's like, like maybe he and Miria are fighting back to back. There's soldiers everywhere. And he just like turns to be like, Miria. And then poof, his head is just gone, just like something that's just like, bam. Because life is fast like that. Life is quick. You don't get to do fucking soliloquies on your deathbed, like you just go.
Yeah. I think that would be the most heartbreaking end for Enzo. I think if he managed to get over that fear and that instinct to always run and finally learn to put himself forward rather than run away. And it was like, nah.
Imagine if he bust through that door and he goes like, Faye, and then that's the last thing he says as a fucking sword comes through his chest.
I felt. Could you imagine that? Right in my stomach and heart.
Something happens like a Faye death is that Enzo finally comes to his fucking senses. You can see whose side I'm on here. And it gets to that moment where it could be, and then it finds out, if the war goes badly, he finds out that he's finally come around and that's it, the chance is gone. And he can never take it back, and he can never know what happens if he would have stayed or not.
Or if he just rocks up. Like one of the deaths I saw as like potential for Faye is for her to go out in a blaze of self-sacrifice, like literally battle lines are drawn and she just rides out there on a horse and is like, if you want to start it, you start it. Have Enzo rock up at that moment just as she's like,
just through the neck. James just did a really rough one in chat. Better still, he comes back for her to find her hung as a traitor. And he's like, where's Faye? And someone points at the scaffold. That would be brutal.
Although, like, Happy Me would love Mara and Samwell to come out of this on top and have a happy ending, which I think, everyone wants a happy ending for their character. But there's bits of me that's really interesting to find out what Mara would do if Samwell was taken from her. Like, if he was just gone, what would happen? Because she's already talked about, like, being like, if this all goes wrong, let's just fuck off to Essos. Let's just go. Which is an idea that Enzo put in her head after he was like, you and Samwell can just go and be happy and stay out of all this warring and trialing and just I'll give you everything you need to go. And she stayed because she knew Samwell would never agree with it. But hopefully I'm not the only one that does this, where you picture scenes that are never going to happen, but you play them out in their entirety in your head. Yeah. And I had this scene that I imagined like being in a war tent, like midway through the rebellion when everything's coming to its height, and like some asshole lord being like, why is your wife in here? And Mara giving this speech on the fact that like, well, if he dies out on that battlefield, one of you has to take over the armies. I'm gonna have to marry one of you fuckers probably for the house, so I'd like to know which one of you is actually worth my time. And like almost like sentencing Samwell to his own death because somebody backstabs him because they realize that they get a house and an army if he's gone. Or just like the horrible fate thing of saying it and it happening.
Seriously, let Faye find out about her night and see how that scene plays out.
Hi Tom.
Hi Tom.
He came back.
Yeah, I'm pretty convinced that Miria will die in season 6. I don't know why. It's just one of those things that's just like I feel like it's going to happen, and I feel like she's either going to die in battle or she'll be executed because the rebellion will fail and she will be executed as a traitor. And I just have very much, like you said, V, those scenes that play out in your head. And I'm imagining Miria stood there like bound as she's about to be executed, and she's looking out at these people that she fought for and bled for and gave up so much for, and they're just cheering and jeering and waiting for her death. And she realizes then, like, the fuck was any of this for? And I'm just like,
It'd be so fitting if it was similar to Daera's execution too.
yeah,
Because like Daera is somebody else that was sent to their death in some ways, not because of Miria, but because of the influence Miria had with her. That would be interesting.
just lock eyes with a young girl in the crowd and be like, you're next, you carry the flame, maybe you'll succeed.
It'd be really cool if after that though there was somebody that Miria was close to that like fell into her mistake of feeling like she was now in Miria's shadow and had Miria's legacy, and like it does the one thing really Miria cool. would not want for the next generation, which is to carry the weight that she kind of carried of Oliver's ghost.
Yeah,
and just perpetuates that living with somebody's ghost.
Imagine if Miria has a kid and she dies before the kid ever really gets to know her. That cycle will continue, right? Unless, you know, nobody tells the kid about their mum. But yeah.
Which probably, I mean, yeah, that would.
Just how awful would it be if Miria had a child and died in childbirth just like her mother? Because her endurance isn't great, so it could happen.
Neither is Mara's. Like, she could have, if she'd have carried that baby to term, she probably would have died in childbirth. Like, 100%.
That's fucking brutal, folks.
Yeah.
It's brutal.
Again, we definitely need some contraception because no.
Brew that tansy tea.
If Samuel had stayed, I could if Enzo had stayed, I can imagine that there is probably a lot of moon tea at Hornhill.
Oh yeah, yeah, we'd be brewing that shit in bulk.
Okay, next question. What's the one moment so far this season where you would have been really interested in the other choice, the road not taken?
Oh, wow.
I know mine straight off the bat. The parlay between Blackfyre and the Royals, the Mayron. If Miria had not joined Blackfyre, if she had gone back with Maren, if she stayed true to her mission, would she have even done that? You know, I don't think there's ever a situation where she wouldn't have joined Blackfyre just because of who she is as a character. But had she stayed with Maren Martell, what would have happened? I'd be really interested to see that path.
I would have been really interested to see if Leo had actually abandoned his wife and kid at the wedding to get out. That he's still out there, but they're hostages. That would have been really juicy, I think.
Yeah.
I think Samuel and Mara would have seen a fury unlike they'd ever seen if they had his wife and kid hostage. I think he would go to any lengths to get them back.
I think that would have been cool to see because Leo, I think among at least a lot of the more Blackfyre leaning houses, they think he's kind of weak. Like he rules by his council. His council are really the ones ruling the Reach, and he's not always seen as being somebody who is good at being a leader. Like he's a really great face for this stuff, but when it comes down to it, it's his council that really pull the strings. That would have been really cool to see him actually like see what it would take for him to step up and do that and be more than just a fancy tourney knight, which is a lot of people's opinion about him. I think that's definitely Mara's opinion, probably influenced by her father. Like
I would have liked to see what happened if Faye had gone with Enzo, just out of morbid curiosity, or if he'd stayed. Like those two parts are so different. I'd also would have liked to see what happened if her persuasion of Samuel at that first meeting hadn't worked, and where you two would have taken that, because that changes everything. That changes her standing with Leo. That changes the situation with Highgarden. It's just so juicy.
I think for me, it would probably be one of two things. It would have either been seeing what would have happened if Mara and Samuel had got married at the Sept, the day that down in Old Town, and not had a big political wedding that made a lot of statements in a lot of weird ways. Which some of which were kind of overshadowed by the fact that everyone knew we were heading to war, and like what that would have done, because that definitely would have been a very different statement for the two of them, not just with the court and the Reach in general and how those like big houses are supposed to deal with weddings, but also with like Papa Tali, because he wouldn't have been part of the reason he was sick and so absent for this that let them get the plan off is because I think Don spent a destiny point to make that a thing that happened. So that wouldn't have had to be the case. So seeing how they would have gone for the power grab that they did would have been really interesting, because Papa Tali was very much like, I'm still in charge of the house and you can have it when I'm dead. Like, when I'm dead, you can do what you want, but until then, it's my way. And like the two of them, I don't think ever really accepted that. They already saw themselves as being in charge. So I think there could have been a real strong possibility of the two of them versus him, which could have been bad. But like more recent in the season, I think it would have been interesting to see what happened if either Ellery had turned or Mara hadn't killed him. If Mara had found some other means of not murdering him, doing what she did for Faye, and seeing where that might have led with Miria later on. Because I think there'd be a very different outcome if Ellery saw Miria again and it was the case of like, yeah, no, she made sure that like Faye, nothing happened. That I was like, it didn't matter what I chose, I was safe. That would have been really different and really interesting.
So with regards to that, Miria had actually written Ellery a letter being like, hey, so I know I've been away for a while, but I really need to talk to you. So much stuff has happened. I'm coming back up north again soon. Can we talk? And that was going to be her time to try and get him on side. And if he didn't come on side, then it would have been, you know, her decision what she was going to do, if she was going to like be, okay, go. Or if Ellery was going to pull something stupid and try and take her in, knowing she was a traitor, would she have to fight back? You know, that would have been like some juice there. Like she might have had to have killed Ellery herself. But yeah, I think that's partially why Miri's so upset and angry, is because she had already put things in motion to sort this problem out herself, because this was her problem. Ellery was her betrothed. You know, he was someone she cared about. And again, it was taken from her. So that's partially why she's so angry.
Was Ellery writing letters back? Because all I can imagine is Miria sending that letter, because it's going to take time for word to reach that far of what's happened.
Yeah.
And just like, if Ellery was supposed to be writing back, just hearing nothing, and like more letters and nothing, and just like not knowing, is that Ellery not wanting to talk? Is that Ellery abandoning me because I'd chosen Blackfyre? Is this him trying to start some plot? Mm-hmm. And then finding out, he never even got that letter. He
was murdered.
Executed.
I don't know. I don't think we ever decided if he was replying. I know definitely while she was on her way down, he probably couldn't reply. But maybe while she was in Sunspear, he could have sent an acknowledgement of her letters. Yeah, he probably did, because I feel like they were on good terms.
Yeah, it kind of broke my heart when Susie showed. I think you actually sent me some of the text from the letter, or like paraphrased it, and I was like, oh, it breaks my heart to think of Miria sending that and like being hopeful, even if there wasn't replies, but being hopeful of like doing that, and maybe that's the thing that can bring them together. And then like, oh, he's gone. And not just like he's gone and she was there and she saw it happen. It's not like she was at the wedding and witnessed it. It was just like Oliver's death, where she didn't know it had happened until a long time after it had happened.
Mm-hmm. I mean, thankfully this time she didn't dream about him being murdered as it happened, like she did with Oliver. Yet. Sam,
this is a cue to let me come in as a really creepy red witch that just wanders into camp and tells Miria some spooky shit about people dying, please. Things Virginia wants in season 6. One episode is a spooky red witch to tell Miria things.
All right, next question. Who is the character most likely to be assassinated? Yes, Millie.
Yeah, I think it's Faye. She's poking some angry little bears right now. I think anybody who's going to take Miria out is probably going to do it to her face.
Probably. I mean, I could see Horatio maybe paying for an assassin or something, but Faye is sticking her nose in some dangerous places with some dangerous people. She may uncover some conspiracies, and that's no good.
Yep. You can be as diplomatic as you want.
Not even just that, but I imagine like she's choosing to abstain from this war, so she's not picking either side. And at most, her armies are gonna like sit at Golden Grove to protect it, to make sure nobody breaks that and tries to attack. But like, I can imagine there's a lot of lords there and banner lords that don't want to, because you know what men are like in Westeros. They want to fight because they think that is the way that it's done. So I can imagine there being a lot of lords that wouldn't be okay with Faye just abstaining and being like, nobody under my command does anything. You sit here and you protect this place. And like somebody makes her a target, right? Because if somebody gets rid of Faye, they can go to war, which...
Well, this is where we need to have a little conversation or a little offline role play about how that negotiation scene's going to play out, because she is going to be very specific about the wording that makes it out there. And it's going to be essentially like, you did this. This was not my choice. You've gone, we don't want you hitting us anymore, so we're keeping you. And if your armies hit us, we'll kill you. That's it.
Yeah.
That's
I feel like
agreement.
Faye's probably going to be let off the hook for not joining the war, considering that she is literally a hostage right now and there's not really anything she can do. And it is very understood that, I guess amongst the lords that she's been taken out of play.
Well,
But
we've missed the obvious
she's
answer, though.
underestimated, right?
Yeah.
They all think she's kind of like, none of them know what she's capable of, and she is quite happy with that.
Yeah, I'm interested in the power vacuum that creates, whether or not Golden Grove are like, okay, no, fine, she's brought us through stuff before, there's got to be a plan, or whether some stupid, ambitious, banner lord is like, do we really care? Because there's a war over there and we could fight.
And a smart magistrate come in handy.
Yeah.
It would be really handy if Enzo hadn't fucked off entirely. That communication would be really useful right about now, but hey.
Men, what can you do, eh? The obvious answer here, which we have an answer for, is Marin Martell, as I've sent a faceless man after him and they never fail. So that's the obvious answer.
Yeah, I want to know what Carl's up to. That's what Tom and I have named him.
Where the fuck is Facey? What is he doing? Is Marin Facey right now? Did I throw a spear at Facey?
Oh, that could be bad. It's like, I did you a favor. How did you not know?
You look just like him. You sound just like him. You're a twat just like him. How was I supposed to know?
Oh my god.
His son was cute, though. I do miss his son.
The thing I really liked about like having the faceless man on is that very Game of Thrones kind of magic-esque is not like it's not been a big central point in our game, but it's just dusted in places with like Marcia's connection to the gods and some of the blood magic, and then the faceless man coming in. Like it's just that perfect like bit of glitter on top that's just like slightly otherworldly when it happens, on like the dreams and stuff.
I really want Faye to see some magic, because her brain would explode. She's too logical. She's just like, no, that's bullshit. Call for Marcia isn't like, no, don't be stupid. Stop accusing women of look with the entrails. Okay, cool. And then what? Like,
and not even just that,
perfect,
like, it worked. Oh, you did all that weird shit and it did something.
Yeah, the cogs would not function for a while after that, I think.
It's perfect though for the time period, right? Because it's 60 years after the dance and what we're playing. It's not long after the Dance of the Dragons, which is when the dragons died, the magic died in Westeros, right? Did it though? But did it? We know it didn't, because Daenerys comes back with her dragons later on. But I think it's just like that little. It's always dominant. It's always there.
But we're in that period where the glass candles aren't burning anymore. Like that period.
Yeah.
I think it's interesting as well how all of our characters view or do view magic. Because obviously Mara believes, because she's always followed the old gods. So in her mind, it's not so much magic. It's just that's just how the old gods work, and she's experienced it, and she will believe it. I know because I've asked Don. Don has never really believed that Marcia did the things that Mara claims that she did, at least in the magic sense, aside from like trying to kill her. But it's been a convenient truth, you know, because the whole Blood Witch thing with the trial and using that to stop people going into Dawn. But I think it's so, and you know, like Simon had the whole thing where he was trying to figure out if magic was real. I don't know where Miria would sit with it.
He's trying to get his magic Boy Scout back.
So Miria keeps the 7, and we've not really shown it much on screen, but she does. She keeps the 7. I mean, it was she was taken to Summerhall. This is what the Targaryens worship. She was watched over by a scepter. Like she basically had no choice. She was like culturally raised with it. Like a lot of people like culturally raised Christian, and they just keep those traditions around. Miria does the same with the 7, and she is terrified of the old gods. She really just doesn't want anything to do with them. I wrote a story ages ago that when she was really little, her brothers took her to the Godswood and like freaked her the fuck out, and she just never got over it. And then so to hear these stories about things the old gods did, she's like, fuck this. Don't want it. No. So she very much rejects the old. And I guess that's rejecting Greenmont as well, right? Because Greenmont is so tied in with the old gods. And I feel like it really helps make her be this fish out of water in the family, that, you know, she never really felt attached to her family and to their religion too.
I think that's interesting, because I always had in my mind, and I think I've hinted it in Vix, the reason that Mara keeps the old gods is because Lukos did. And she remembers the time that he took her to the Godswood, and she was afraid of the weirwood trees, as a lot of people are. And he was the one that got rid of that fear for her. So I think it's really interesting that Miria never got taken to the Godswood with him, because you know, he had a thing where he loved her, but he didn't know what to do with his daughter that looked like his dead wife, because he's bad at processing. And so the experience that she had in the Godswood with her family was being made to be scared of what.
Do you know what it was? Because I remember I was chuckling to myself, because this is 100% something I would have done with my siblings. Is she was like 4 or 5, and they took her there, and they said they had another sister, but the tree ate her because it's bleeding, right? So about a 4 or 5-year-old is like, no, I don't want to be eaten. And they like picked her up and pretended to feed her to the tree. And she's just like, no. God.
So they had
traumatized her.
Very different experiences, and I think it's really interesting how they are so polar opposite, both in like their personality, but in how they were brought up with the same elements. And it's the reason Mara's not scared of the weirwoods, and she's used that to her advantage a few times. I felt kind of bad that when Samuel was still an NPC, like Mara being like, I'm going to take you to the Godswood, so you don't want to lie to me because I know that you're scared of these trees. Like, let me use the gods to emotionally manipulate you.
Garbage.
She is, but I love her.
Okay, so Pope asks, will we see characters and forces from other bits of the world that we have yet to see on ATF? Do you know what I would love? I would love Allegra to meet Mara and just read her for fucking filth. Allegra would not have a bar of Mara. She would not even she'd eat that girl for dinner.
Mara would just have some gay panic about Allegra, I'm not going to lie. Like, Allegra would make Mara question herself.
Well, play your cards right.
I mean, Mara's kind of okay with that anyway. Like, I think she kind of decided that she was fine with her husband's taking lovers, but like, she's never really considered herself taking one for herself. But like, Allegra would make her question everything.
I think Allegra makes us all question everything.
Made me question some things.
It's one of those questions. Why am I like this?
Yeah. Why do I have so much fun flirting with my friends?
Oh my God, James. He's just put put in chat, this is why I like Samuel having long hair.
Be like me when I was 24 and I was like, wait, do I like women too? Actual me.
I've
There you
always
go.
felt guilty that I didn't have that like moment of like, oh fuck. It was like I woke up one morning and was just like, women then. Cool.
I never consciously realized that was the decision I had to make. I was just like always fine with this. And then one day someone was like, oh, so you're this then? I'm like, oh, this isn't the norm.
Oh yeah, that explains a lot.
Right, yeah, that explains a lot.
Excuse me.
Look, the mummy's transformative, okay?
I did. Yes.
Mummy, Britney Spears, a lot of
Do you know,
Britney
having
Spears.
said that though, most, if not all of my TTRPG characters are also queer. I think Miri is straight. I think she's straight.
Yeah.
Probably the first straight character I think I've ever played.
Yeah.
I don't think
There you
Faye's ever thought of it. Like she hasn't.
Yeah.
She hadn't even really thought about dudes apart from the fact she was promised to Samuel, and then Enzo showed up and ruined everything, made them feel all feelings. But I that's never been a priority for her.
Yeah, I think like Miria had a childhood crush on Harris, and then life got in the way, and now he's turned back up again. And she's like, oh, hello.
What are these soft, squishy feelings?
I don't think Mara's ever had to never really considered it until Alistair kind of tells her that he has a thing for dudes, and she kind of has to be like, I don't know how to feel about this, and she eventually decides like, oh well, I'm kind of okay with this. Like, if you're gonna take a lover, that's fine, but don't lie to me about it. Like, let's not do this.
That's the difference, right? Like, there's cheating physically, and then there's emotional.
Yeah,
and if you're in a couple, like as long as the emotional side isn't threatened, the physical side can sometimes slide. That's fascinating to watch.
I don't think she even would have minded if there was somebody that he cared about, but her thing was just like, I am your wife. Like, as long as this isn't you love that person and you're pretending to love me so you can keep loving. You can love us both, but I don't want to be the pretend wife. That's like that was her thing. And I think as time went on, and then there was the whole thing with Samuel, I think at this point, like subconsciously, she's kind of like, I'm kind of just cool with it. Like, if he wants to take a lover, whether that's a dude or a woman, I'm fine with it. I kind of want to be involved, but she's never like had to question whether she's like bi. I think she just doesn't really care as long as everyone's happy. Like, she's reached a point where she's like, there are some things I just give no fucks about. Like,
It's actually pretty funny with my early concept for Allegra and Yanis when he was an NPC. They basically would chill with each other fucking around. They just had two rules: no bastards and not in our bed, and that was it.
That's cool.
Then Don took over, and Yanis became this like absolute pure bean of just best husband you could ask for. And
he was so good.
You know he did that
awful.
on purpose.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
He's like, what?
Like, messy.
That face Don pulled earlier, like the picture of innocence.
Meanwhile, he's DMing me, so being like, so we have an extremely skilled thief as a daughter. How do we weaponize this? We had literally come up with an entire plan to plan evidence of Wendell Gaunt being involved in a conspiracy to kill the king using Danella.
Amazing. Tala is retrospectively well up for that. Go for it. Remove
the ghost of Jamie approves.
Also, can I just say that this game, After the Fyre, is so fucking good that we have had several spin-offs of this game.
We have.
Was that my first game with you, Susie? It was definitely my first game with Sam. I think it was my first one with Susie. Fucking hell.
Do you want to know something really funny, Millie? When I remember the few bits of Crown Rounds that I managed to like pop into and catch, I had two thoughts when I saw you role playing. The first was, oh my god, I want to role play with Millie. Millie seems really cool. This is amazing. And the second was, I think it was because of the wig that you were wearing at the time. It was that slightly like Albany brown color. And immediately the only thing I could think of, I was like, it was because of what you were saying. You were doing something vaguely political-ish. And instantly I was like, I'm getting real Marjorie Tyrell vibes here. Like, I think it was like between the voice and then like the hair was very like season, was it 3 or 4 for Marjorie Tyrell when she was still in King's Landing, and she had that very like loose and that was the color of her hair. And I just remember just being like, it's a weird association that I built up with Tala.
Because Tala had none of the guile. Tala was an open book of absolute nonsense.
So I don't know anything about any of the Crownlands characters in depth because I never got to catch a significant portion of the show. But like that is my weird association. I associate like was it Nuno's character with horses for some reason.
Yeah.
Weird that.
Yeah, but I don't know why. But
fucking used car salesman.
Asta just makes me think of horses. Tala just immediately brings pictures of Marjorie Tyrell to mind, and for Susie, any description of Allegra is just gay panic for me. I'm just like, I love this woman. She's amazing. I don't know anything about her aside from her being a wench of Westeros, but I love her.
Yeah,
she's a nightmare. She's an awful person. And every time I'd sit down to play, I was like, how awful can I be today? Exactly this awful. This feels great. Like I had that moment when she was banging the Master of Coin. I was like, this is fucking terrible. She has just basically started fucking this guy in front of the whole court. Everyone knows. I'm like,
do you ever do the thing where your character makes a decision and it's almost like you are no longer in control? This other person that you have built an entire like emotional, intelligent thinking for just takes over, and you come out of the session, you're like, that was that other character, right? That wasn't me.
That came out.
Would I do that? Oh my god. Oh my god, which bit of my personality is this? Please tell me that this is an extreme. Where was I hiding that?
Yeah. Like Susie knows my backstory, like my headcanon for where Tala went after we left that story.
I remember seeing this out of context.
Totally fun. Like I'm like, what does this say about me? Like I've studied psychology and I'm pretty sure this isn't good.
Sure ain't. I haven't studied psychology and I know it's not good.
Yeah.
I don't even know anything about Tala, and I read that and was like, that's a choice.
Yeah.
Playing Allegra for me.
Innocent.
Oh, go on.
No, I love
me was like, oh, I can flirt. Huh. Turns out.
For me, it was like, oh, I can play innocent characters. Huh.
Oh god, with the Reginald Barclay episode of TNG I've just watched. Oh god. I can do all these things.
But speaking of the Crownlands, Sam, how fucking dare you?
What?
Jamie.
He died.
He did.
That scene broke my heart.
Same.
I have this weird thing with character deaths. Like, I feel like if it's going to happen, it should absolutely happen. I remember I was at a LARP where I was playing one of my only kind of real proper combat-y characters, and we were in a kind of bit of an unwinnable situation down in the like. I mean, we used to live down there in like a like old Napoleonic fort. Like it was actually like a dungeon. It was wicked. We were down in there, and like PCs were dropping left, right, and center, and like it's maybe me and one other guy, and like we're the last people to go down. And I'm literally, because you have your death count, so you have to like count to 5 minutes or something. So I'm literally going there like 243, 244, 245, just thinking, this is it, I'm dead. I'm absolutely dead. No, I'm totally dead. And then we all get taken back upstairs, and it was like, okay, that was in a parallel universe or some kind of explanation that they'd written, like they'd pre-written it and stuff like that. And I just remember throwing such a strop because I was like, I died, I should fucking die. Like, it was kind of a do it, you cowards, but I was being a bit of a twat about it. But yeah, like it's kind of, I guess it was kind of the same with Jamie. It was like, no, he died, that's fine. That's cool.
I didn't see
that's
the
what
Crownlands.
I got used in some magic sacrifice thing.
Oh.
Yeah. I got magicked to death.
But
You got
he
Gendry.
did, and then Tala was like, I am not letting my brother die. I'm not losing another one. I'm proper like fucking with her new weird witchy powers, reached out into the ether and was like, no, I am dragging you back. And she rolled really well, but it was ultimately Jamie's choice whether he came back or not, and he said no.
And I had to watch it all in a horrible pregnancy dream.
Oh, fun.
Dreams from my characters are just never good. I would like season 6. I would like one good dream, please, Sam. Just one.
One good dream. Okay.
One good dream.
Okay.
No, because no, don't do that.
Okay. All right.
Fuck. All right.
No, like if you want to see more dreams, we can have a look at the dreams. I always enjoy the dreams because I never tell you that it's a dream when we start. That's how I always like to see when you catch on. I always enjoy that.
Smart.
It's always
Like
juicy
that.
when you hand it over to someone else. Like that time you had me surprise GM for Dawn, and then Dawn surprise GM'd for me. Like that's juicy.
Yeah, 100%. We should wrap up though. Probably it's getting late. So I am trying to convince these lovely people to play some one-shots with me while we're prepping for the next season. Next Thursday, I'm hoping we can play Brindlewood Bay. Brindlewood Bay. The Nanas solving murder mysteries. Yeah. So I'll share that around. We'll prep some of that before we drop in. I'm also going to be playing Ironsworn for a little bit on the Wednesdays. I'm going to be trying it out. Solo role playing.
Ooh.
Let's see what happens. I'm going to write a story. I'm going to see if word can, be dictated to and see how successful that is. And if not, then I don't know. But yeah, we'll give some more stuff a go. And we're running Cursed Captains on the Monday as well. That is such a fun show, such a fun cast, and such a fun story.
Cast are amazing. It's just they're like a GM's dream in that they just keep handing me things and getting themselves into trouble. Last week was fun. I enjoyed making my Sea Witch a spooky to rival Noir's character, and kind of maybe made him feel a bit bad about some choices that he'd made. That may or may not come back. I can't wait for Kurt to come back this week because we've canonically had him like looking after the ship. So all his character has seen is lightning in the middle of the day, lots of people like shouting about stuff, and then a spooky lady shows up on the ship and he possibly sees Papa without his face paint on, which nobody has ever seen. Like and spooky plots and plans, and I've asked James for lots of terrible gribbly things.
Yeah, he's tapping away furiously at his keyboard.
Yeah, it's like
Bless
after
him.
the first episode, he was like, what do I need to make? And I'm like, okay, here's a list. Here's where this is going. Because I do actually, for once, I have an actual plot, like a proper plot. It's not all improv like I usually do my games for. So it's gonna be fun. I dropped a load of hints on them last session, and I don't think they put the pieces together yet. And I might feel a bit guilty when they do.
I haven't figured it out yet, so looking forward to it.
Yeah. When you drop hints about not trusting somebody, just not trusting them, and everybody's a bit off about them, they haven't picked up on that yet.
Damn.
We've had an entire campaign on this, friends. We haven't learned that lesson.
Nope.
So
Potshop's still walking around. Not for too long, though, I imagine.
Yeah. Holiday with the Tarleys, nothing bad will happen.
hey, look. He would not be Mara's first choice for overlooking Old Town, but unfortunately Mara just cannot get across to Samuel that Costain, while useful, should never, under any circumstances, be trusted. And Samuel's just like, yeah, he's got some stuff going on, but like he seems okay. I'm like, no, this man will get you killed. Like, Mara likes Costain for what he can do and the fact that he is connected and useful, but that does not mean she trusts him. And he's slowly starting to run out of usefulness, in her opinion.
Yeah,
So,
Faye and Samuel need to have a chat.
Please do. I need to see what happens when she's like, where's my knight, Sam? Because he hasn't told Mara about it. And there's a bit of me that like kind of wants Mara to either overhear that bit of the argument to ask him about later to see what he tells her, or to straight up have Faye tell Mara and just see how that goes.
Like right now, I think until she gets word from one of her spies that there's some lead there, I don't think she would dare. There needs to be a push, because at the moment she's really aware that this is tenuous and new, and she doesn't have many friends.
Susie.
Would you like Old Town? Because you can have Old Town if Costain dies. I'm just saying.
We need to wrap up. So let me wrap it up by saying a big thank you to everyone who watches. You know, like this, we say this is our home game, but you also really make it. You're a big part of it as well. I love seeing kind of the silly messages in chat as I'm trying to role play seriously with these people, and it's been such a joy to share it with people as well. Like we really mean that. Like we've I think cultivated a brilliant kind of group of people, a little community who really enjoy the show, like really enjoy the game, love getting into the kind of getting into the kind of gossip of it and like trying to figure out where it will go and what's happened to it and stuff. So yeah, big thanks to you guys too. So please come back to us when we start season 6. Please come back to us in the meantime as we're playing Cursed Captains, as we're playing some one-shots. Join us this time next week as we'll be trying to figure out how this game, the Brindlewood Bay, plays, and how you solve a mystery by not even knowing how the mystery happened. I'm going to GM it somehow. I don't know. It'll be my first time GMing a Powered by the Apocalypse game as well. So we'll see how that goes. Millie, I think it's going to be an absolute fucking nightmare for you, but there's lots of cheat sheets and stuff.
That's fine.
And you know how this group rolls. You tell me what you want to do and we'll just try and figure it out.
I just want to be a grumpy nan.
Yes. Well, you get to choose hobbies and stuff as well, which is always fun.
Ooh.
Knitting, I might start, and I'm going to try and do a Midsummer Murders spin on it, like a real kind of British, like daytime, murder mystery show.
I've trained
Bit
for
Jonathan,
this.
bit Jonathan Creek. Fucking love Jonathan Creek back in the day. Oh, so it's going to be very British as well.
Already decided who my old lady will be just in this moment. My old lady is basically going to be me in like 50 years, who can only remember like where reality is distorted. Like, is it her life? Is she talking about some character she played or a movie that she watched? Like, that's what I'm doing.
No, Gran, that's the plot of Die Hard.
That's it. Her entire life is just like fragments of her own memories mixed with media she has seen.
Yeah.
So us in about 40 years then.
Yeah.
Yeah.
100%.
Me now.
Let's get you back to the home, Nana.
Susie and I could be up for a reunion and just scream at each other for 3 hours about the people that I
Do they
murdered.
still hate each other? No, they're best friends.
No, it's
All
they
right.
do this sometimes.
We're doing it. We keep fucking doing this.
No, I've stuck the raid on now. We are going
Yippee-ki-yay,
off.
whippersnapper.
Whippersnapper. Oh my god. All right. That's what I want you to say to Valdrinth when you pop into their stream. Yippee-ki-yay, whippersnapper. All right.
Jesus Christ.
See you over there. Bye, everyone. We'll see you soon.
Bye.
Bye.